Hapaday and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here at the public hearing for the following bills. Bill number 41-38 COR, Bill number 51-38 COR, and Bill number 73-38 COR. Hapaday and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This public hearing is conducted by the Committee on Land, Environment, Housing, Agriculture, Parks, and Infrastructure, and it's called to order at 2:00 p.m. Today's date is Thursday, May 22nd, 2025. Notice of the hearing was disseminated to all local media outlets on May 15, 2025, with a second notice provided on May 20, 2025. Notice of the hearing was also made known on the Guam Legislature's website and the Government of Guam Public Notices Portal. This afternoon, again, the committee will hear testimony on the following bills. Number 41-38 COR, sponsored by Senator Joe S. and Agustin, an act to add a new J to subsection 80105 of Chapter 80, Title 21, Guam Code Annotated, relative to transferring lots number 7100, 7102, 7103, and 7146 in JANOM in the municipality of YIGO to the Guam Ancestral Lands Use Commission. Next on the agenda will be Bill number 51-38 COR, sponsored by Senator Shawn Gumataotao, an act to amend Section 2 of Public Law 3461 relative to transferring the title of ownership of lot number 7054-1, municipality of YIGO, from the CHAMORRO Land Trust Commission to the Guam Police Department. And Bill number 73-38 COR, also sponsored by Senator Gumataotao, an act to authorize a transfer of title of ownership and administrative jurisdiction of Lot 15, Block F, Tract 9 in BARRIGADA Heights from the CHAMORRO Land Trust Commission to the Guam Police Department for the development of a public safety emergency communications center. I would like to welcome my colleagues joining us today. On my right is Senator Shawn Gumataotao. To my left, Senator Joe S. and Agustin and Senator Therese Sterlai. Thank you, colleagues, for joining us here today. Before we begin, I would like to just go over the general rules of conduct. The individuals testifying shall first be recognized by the chair before speaking and shall state their name for record-keeping purposes. Questions and testimony shall be confined to the substance or nature of the agenda. Personal inference as to the character or motive of any senator or individual testifying is not permitted. The chairperson of the committee may order the removal from the hearing of any member of the Legislature who fails to observe proper decorum pursuant to the 38 Guam Legislature standing rules. Any violation of this rule will conduct in the result of the removal from the hearing by the host. We will now proceed to hear testimony on Bill number 41-38 COR. Before I do that, what I would like to do is go ahead and read a letter from the CHAMORRO Land Trust Commission, and this was just delivered today, and its subject is the public hearing for Bill numbers 51-38 and Bill number 73-38, and it reads, Hapaday Vice Speaker Ada, I respectfully request to reschedule the public hearing today, May 22nd, 2025, for Bill numbers 51-38 and Bill number 73-38 at a later date. The CHAMORRO Land Trust Commission, the CLTC board meeting is, as mandated by law, holds its regular board meeting on the third Thursday of every month, which is today. And they're currently in their board hearing. And this was by the chairwoman, Arlene P. Bordallo. But with that being said, we will continue to have the public hearing for both bills. However, I will allow additional time for testimony and any comments that the CHAMORRO Land Trust Commission may have on pertaining to the two bills that were aforementioned. With that, I'll go ahead and call to the podium. I guess everyone is that will be testifying on Bill number 41-38 COR. I'll have the author go ahead and have his opening remarks. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And buenas and hapaday to all my colleagues and everyone attending. Before we start, I will be proposing an amendment to the bill, just in the title, to cross the word use. Why? Because on the title it says to transfer to the Guam Ancestral Land Use Commission. There's no Guam Ancestral Land Use, just Guam Ancestral Land Commission. Okay, that's the only amendment. But we're here today to discuss and act on a topic that is essential to Guam's history, culture, and justice for families who have long yearned to restore their ancestral lands. We are specifically dealing with transfers of lots number 7100, 7102, 7103, and 7146, which are in the JANOM neighborhood of the municipality of YIGO, and were formerly owned by the estate of John S.N. Titano and Rosario F. Titano. In addition to their legal significance, these land pieces hold great cultural and familial significance. Within 30 days of this Act's effective date, the proposed action guarantees that these lands will be formally transferred to the Guam Ancestral Land Commission. The Commission will then have 180 days to fulfill its duties, which are based on justice, reparation, some of these words, excuse me, and the proper restoration of land to the original proprietor's descendants. Crucially, the law that safeguards useful and historic access points, all pre-condemnation roads, assessment, and boulevard paths will remain public easement, guaranteeing that community infrastructure and access requirements are met. This goes beyond a simple land deal. It is an ongoing statement of our government's duty to make amends for historical wrongs, restore landowners' families' dignity, and respect the history of our forebears. For decades, the descendants of the Titano family have been working to get these lots transferred properly to the CHAMORRO Ancestral Land Commission. As legislation is required, it will close the door on the work that generations of this family have long endured to seek justice in their land's taking. And thank you, Mr. Chair, for hearing this bill. And today we all have participated in today's hearing. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Agustin. I'd also like to recognize my colleagues, Senator Barnett and Senator Titano, for joining us here this afternoon. Thank you, Senators. We'll go ahead and those that would be providing oral testimony, Lillian Guerrero and Ricardo Guerrero, and anyone else will be, okay, because I only have the two of you that will be providing.
Actually, I'm the brother, but I have my wife with me, and so during my portion of the presentation, I would like to ask my wife to help me out in this because she's got better vision than I do.
Okay, that's fine. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and then have your wife do your testimony for you. If you can, just pull the microphones closer to your, so that everyone in the audience will be able to hear.
Are you ready? All right.
You're going to just make your mic closer.
Okay, can you hear me? All right, here we go. Let's start. My name is Francisco Titano Guerrero, and I belong to this family that we're going to be talking about their property up in YIGO. With me is my wife and partner for forever, and she helped me put some kind of presentation together in support of the bill that we have. All right, so at this point, I'd like to introduce my wife, Lillian, and she will then address our writings. Okay.
Good afternoon, Senators. My name is Lillian Opena Guerrero, spouse of Francisco Titano Guerrero. Good afternoon. Buenas and Hafaday, Committee on Land, Environmental, Housing, Agriculture, Park, and Infrastructure. Honorable Vice Speaker V. Anthony Ada, Chairperson. And Senators, Senator Gumataotao, Senator San Agustin, Senator Talai, Senator Barnett, and Senator Titano. My name is Francisco Titano Guerrero, grandson of John San Nicolas Titano and Rosario Flores Titano, and one of the administrators for the estate of John San Nicolas Titano and Rosario Flores Titano. First, I would like to thank you for introducing Bill 4138 Core to transferring lots numbers 7100, 7102, 7103, and 7146, called JANOM, in the municipality of YIGO, Guam, to the Guam Ancestral Land Use Commission proposed by Senator Joe San Agustin. I'm here today to testify in full support of Bill 4138 Core. And please, there's a revision, slight revision on my testimony, so please indulge me. To please take note that the Ancestral Land Commission acknowledge and recognize as a transfer back to the estate of John San Nicolas Titano and Rosario Flores Titano in the event this transfer happens. Many times it goes to the Ancestral and somehow someone drops the ball. So if you can note that in the event that is transferred back to the Ancestral, to please give the title, you know, the opportunity to have that land registered under their name. Records have indicated that the estate of my grandparents, John San Nicolas Titano and Rosario Flores Titano, has cultivated and inhabited this land in YIGO for many generations. The Titano family has been the sole occupancy of this property. My grandmother, Rosario Flores Titano, tirelessly fought against the naval government's attempts to seize our land through increased land taxes. A quote from my uncle, former Senator Richard F. Titano, reflects the struggle. A naval commander, Richard P. Leary, remarked that Guamanians should not own large parcels of land because they are ignorant and dumb. Consequently, they attempted to take my grandparents' land, raising back taxes. My grandmother promptly paid the exorbitant land taxes to ensure the property would always remain in the Titano family. According to the Guampedia in 1899, shortly after his arrival, Captain Richard P. Leary abolished the old Spanish tax system and implemented a new land tax, the schedule of the tariff for the island of Guam. Unlike the Spanish system, which taxed based on the income derived from the property, Leary's tax system was based on the size and type of the land. This new taxation proved so burdensome that many Chamorros lost their land to the naval government. Furthermore, this policy led landowners, fearing the loss of their property, to undervalue the size and worth of their land. Leary also established the forced labor tax, requiring all males between ages 18 through 60 to work for the governor for 15 days a year. This approach was part of an effort to extract funds from the Chamorros to govern the newly acquired territory. Meanwhile, Leary and the other American officials paid no direct taxes, and any goods used by the Navy were exempt from duty. Leary issued General Order 15, number 15, warning landowners to register their properties by May 15, 1899. If they wished to have their ownership recognized, taxes were due in July. This initiated what former Senator Richard F. Titano termed the crown landization of Chamorro lands, the conversion of the privately owned lands into Spanish crown lands. The naval government concluded that any land not registered by May 15 deadline would be considered Spanish crown land, which was subsequently acquired by the U.S. through harsh taxation, intimidation, and other means. General Order number 15 forced Chamorros into a dilemma: either register their properties accurately and risk losing them due to unpaid taxes, or avoid registration and lose them due to improper documentation. Many Chamorros who own parcels in villages or farmland had to decide which lots to protect. As the naval government began discovering mistakes in the lot sizes declarations, they started registering these lands as government property, with some declaration occurring over 35 years after the U.S. took possession of Guam from Spain. I would like to read a quote from Guampedia article on land ownership in Guam. The Mariana Islands are the ancestral homeland of the Chamorro people. Scientists have shown that Chamorros have lived here for more than 4,000 years, sharing a unique and special relationship with the land and sea. Chamorros are commonly referred to as Tautautanu, which literally means people of the land. It is also indicates that the person is native to these islands. Land is the soul of Chamorro culture. Together with the sea, it gives life to the Chamorro people. The history of the Chamorro amplifies the role land played in the lives of our ancestors. The ancient Chamorro, like their ancestors from the Southeast Asia, believed that all nature had an essence of spirit the Westerners reserve only for humans. Consequently, the ancient Chamorros, like other native people, had a great concern of nature. They attempted to live in harmony with nature and integrate their lives with all that is in nature. In the ancient Chamorro worldview, humans and nature were interdependent. People felt it was wrong to exploit nature, that they should take only what they need and leave the rest for others. Honorable Senators, I hope my testimony will positively influence the Titano family and lead to a favorable decision on Bill 4138. To this day, the Titano family has paid numerous land taxes on the large parcel of land called JANOM in question. I would like to yield to my older brother, Ricardo T. Guerrero, whose knowledge of these properties will best illustrate the historical facts. But before I do that, in closing, we strongly believe the land deserves protection, and it's the responsibility of the Titano family to safeguard our land, as our grandmother Rosario Flores Titano. Gifino Chamorro, protehi itanota. Thank you, Sejus Masi, Francisco Titano Guerrero, grandson of John San Nicolas Titano and Rosario Flores Titano.
Thank you, ma'am, for that testimony on behalf of your husband, Francisco. We'll go ahead and go with Ricardo to deliver your testimony, sir.
Thank you. I asked my daughter to sit with me because I have this problem of speaking in the public. I tend to freeze, have a panic attack.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
She can be there for your support as well. And if she needs to read it for you, then she can.
Should I falter? I want her to take over.
Yes, sir. Not a problem. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Ricardo T. Guerrero, retired electrical contractor and resident of Dedido. My residential address is 568 Waiseng Sung Road, Dedido, Guam. Before I begin, I would like to give thanks to the chairman and the rest of the committee in allowing me to present my testimony on Bill 4138 Core. I'd like to begin my testimony by presenting a brief history of the place called JANOM. In 1886, a young man named Jose Algon Flores bought a piece of property from Jose Algon Flores, the place of the property from, let me begin that. In 1886, a young man named Jose Algon Flores bought a piece of property from Don Luis Herrero for 30 pesos. The land was described as being bounded by 4 mountains. There was no agreement drawn out, but just a verbal gentleman's agreement and an exchange of money, like most transactions done at that time. When the U.S. took over the island from Spain after the Spanish-American War, a general order was issued to all landowners that all landowners must register their land for the purpose of assessment of tax. Mr. Flores recorded the land called JANOM to be his own, and since he did not have any document to show that the ownership, he presented witnesses by the name of Don Juan Mendiola and Joaquin de Rivera. The land was recorded on October 18, 1900. That Jose Agun Flores was the owner of JANOM, a place bounded by 4 mountains having an area of 10 hectares. I like to refer you to sketch number 1, which I presented. On October 1st, this property was assigned as estate number 832. In October 1st, 1926, Mr. Flores sold JANOM to Mr. Jesus de Cruz, his son-in-law, married to his youngest daughter, Juliana, for $500. But in April 1927, Mr. Flores regained back his land through a court order. In February 4th, 1930, Mr. Flores sold major part of JANOM to another son-in-law, one San Nicolas Titano, married to his older daughter, Rosario, for $350. The property was described as a parcel of land containing an area of 8 hectares and was bounded on the north and south by cliff owned by the Naval Government of Guam, and on the east by the beach owned by the Naval Government of Guam, and on the west by the remaining part of estate number 832 owned by Mr. Agun. This property was assigned estate number 4138, and I refer that to sketch number 2. In fiscal year 1934, Mr. Juan San Nicolas Titano, being a proud and stubborn man, having heard that someone was claiming ownership of JANOM, refused to pay the tax on the property. As a result, the Naval Government of Guam put a lien on the property and auctioned it. Having no taker, the Naval Government of Guam took possession of the estate for 4138 and recorded the estate being owned by the U.S. government. However, on February 11, 1936, Mr. Juan San Nicolas Titano's wife, Rosario, redeemed the property by paying all the taxes due and interest. She paid a total of $8.52. The warranty deed that conveyed the property to Rosario Titano described the property as a parcel of land containing an area of about 8 hectares, bounded in the north and south by the cliff owned by the Naval Government, and on the east by the beach owned by the Naval Government, and on the west by the property of Agun Flores, her father. And I like to make that I emphasize the description of the property being bounded by ocean, beach, and the remaining property of Mr. Agun. From the time that the conveyance of the property known as Estate 4138 to the time the family of one S.N. Titano and Rosario Titano had the property surveyed, the family believed that the entire property was their own. But the research of the property recorded, and the research done by surveyor Robert Beam proved otherwise. On July 30, 1938, and this is where the discrepancy is. July 30, 1938, after having 3 parcels of land surveyed in JANOM, the Naval Government of Guam registered the land under the government of the United States, having acquired by secession of Spain by virtue of Article 8 of the Treaty of Paris. Remember that in 1886, this was purchased by Mr. Ogun from Mr. Herrero. So the secession by Spain wasn't really clear or true. The parcels of land become lot numbers 7100, 7102, and 7103. Estate 4138 become number 7099, and the remaining part of Estate 832 become lot number 7101. And I had a sketch on this on sketch number 3. In the land registration case of 57-75, for the initial registration of lot number 7099 new by the Titanos, referred to sketch number 4, and the land registration case number 75-75, initial registration of lot 7146 by the government of Guam, referred to sketch number 5. Lands were overlapping and overlaying in both maps. The Titano representative at that case objected to the decree establishing the title of lot 7100, 7102, 7103, rendered in August 10, 1938, because they were not served any notice, nor did they see or hear any notice of the hearing. After all the arguments that were presented to Judge Benson in these cases, Judge decided not to disturb the decree of Judge Manibusan, allowing the United States to register lot 7100, 7102, and 7103. But Judge Benson did allow the Titano to register all land in Hanum outside of this lot, number 7102, 7100, 7102, and 7103. Finally, the family was able to register the land after the approval of map drawn by Surveyor Frank Castro in August 3rd, 2012. It's been quite a number of years since we started. While I accepted the decision of Judge Benson in the memorandum of decision, where he stated that the Titano cannot claim lots number 100, 7100, 7102, 7103, I honestly believe that the Naval Government of Guam were in error when they decided that Hanum was described by its area rather than by its boundary. It had a natural boundary, monument for its boundaries, such as the cliff and the beach. CCA Chapter 8101, Rule for Construing Land, description, item number 2, state that when permanent and visual or certain boundaries or monuments are inconsistent with the measurement, either lines, angles, or surface, which is area, the boundaries and monument are paramount. I would like to further discuss how the United States of America acquired 7100, 7102, and 7103. When the naval government took possession of estate number 4183, that when they failed to, the family failed to pay tax, for failure of payment of tax, the government sent their surveyor to Hanum to survey, seeing that the area of the property was much larger than what was indicated in the land record, the Nebo government of Guam decided to confine the property, the private property, to only the 10 hectares as shown in sketch, as shown in the land record. The first survey 2 parcels of land, lot number 7100, 7103, within the estate of number 832. The remainder of estate 832 outside of lot number 7100, 7103 was then identified as lot number 7099 and 7101, an area of approximately 8 hectares, which was bounded by newly surveyed and claimed by the Nebo Properties, refers to sketch number 3. It is known that when the United States government wants to take something, they would use every means they can and take the best part available. For example, Sumay, FENA, NCS, Retidium, the large tract of land on the right side of Route 1 from Dededuk to YIGO, and etc. In JANOM, there is a valuable resource available in the area, an underground spring that flows out into the sea. At one time, it was estimated that the lowest flow was more than 1 million gallons of water flowing out to the sea. When the naval government determined that JANOM Spring was not included in the 2 parcels, they sent the surveyors back to make sure that the taking include the JANOM Spring. Hence, they surveyed another parcel of land, named the lot number 7102, and added to their taking. If they only wanted to combine the private property, the 2 parcels, 7100 and 7102, the 2 parcels originally surveyed were more than adequate. I'd like to just go off my testimony and indicate that one of the means that the government uses to take land or take anything is through, and they use this religiously, taxation, as earlier indicated by the one that was last speaker. Yeah. During the hearing of the registration of lot number 7100, 7102, 73, it was stated that no one appeared to object to the registration of the properties. No doubt there was no one appearing to object to the registration if the government did not make real effort to issue out notices, especially when the government controlled both the radio and the printed media. You know, I want to ask you, if the government wants to take the land, send their surveyor secretly to survey the land they want to take, and to register it, they would make big effort to notify the owner to testify. I don't think that is reasonable. I think that if they want to take it, they secretly surveyed the place, and then had a hearing, which was not, I don't believe that they did, in fact, make real effort because they want the property. Going further in my testimony, in dealing with the question of the size of Hanum, it was originally guesstimated to be 10 hectares by Mr. Jose Algon Flores when he recorded Hanum in 1900. The size remained the same until Neville government surveyed 7100, 7103, boxing in the private property, namely the private property, namely lot number 71 and lot number 7099, to just 10 hectares combined as originally recorded. They did this by taking lot number 7100 on the north side of the private property, and on the south side they took lot number 7103. East side of the east side was the beach, and the west side was the cliff. In other words, what I'm saying here is that on this big land, the government surveyed this side and this side of the private property. On the other side is the cliff, on the other side is the beach, which blocked in the private property. The area of Hanum remained the same from 1938 to the final approval drawn by Mr. Castro. Approaching the question of the area of Hanum through tax assessment on the property from 1930 to the beginning of Second World War, the property owned by Titano was assessed with the size of the land of 8 hectares. By the Neville government. After the war in 1953, the family was assessed tax for an area of 100 hectares. And at that time, 1953, that was the time that the properties 7100, 7102, and 7113 was transferred from the U.S. government over to the government of Guam. And immediately they assessed 100 tax on 100 hectares. How they get that, I don't know. In 1954 to 1956, the property was assessed for an area of 8 hectares. In 1957 through 1963, the assessment were for 100 hectares. The assessment from 1964 back to 8 hectares, and from 1965 to 1975, the assessment was for 100 hectares. This assessment from 1976 up to 2013 was based on the payment that the area was estimated to be 131 hectares as a result of the initial land registration map submitted by Mr. Beam. But never, the map that was drawn by Mr. Beam was never approved. From 2014 to the present, the tax assessment has been an area of 83.2 hectares in accordance to the land management approved map drawn by Mr. Frank Castro. In my conclusion of the size of the property assessed by the government of Guam was over the years has been for 100. And I there was a controversy on the size of JANOM during the time that Mr. Titano, Richard Titano was running. This property was said to have been growing from 8 hectares to 100 hectares. I want to point out that never was any member of the family has ever gone to the government of Guam to say that the property has changed. All these changes that were made or were rumored was done by the government of Guam through the tax assessment. I just want to say, I have the sketches to clearly show the change of event on JANOM. Sketches were drawn on a Google map showing the aerial view of the area. It clearly showed the cliff as well as the beach. And this aerial map, I think, was taken maybe in 1990. And I want to just say, mention what are the sketches. Sketch number 1 showed the area when it was bought by Agustin Flores from Don Luis Herrero. Sketch number 2 shows the area that one Titano bought the major part of Estate 832 from Agustin Flores and become Estate number 4138. Sketch number 3 showed that the area when the Naval Government of Guam acquired and registered lot number 7100, 7102, and 7103. Sketch number 4 shows the area surveyed by Mr. Robert Beam, identified as lot number 7099 new. Sketch number 5 shows the lot number 7146, which claimed portion of JANOM with an overlap. Sketch number 6 shows the most recent survey descriptions approved by the Department of Land Management. We recognize that the government has registered 7100, 7102, 7103. I hope that I made it clear that this same lot were part of, or rather taken from, estate number 4138, and the remainder of estate 832. Further, this same lot number 7100, 7102, 703 are considered excess land and should be transferred to the Ancestral Land Commission for their disposition, as these were considered private property prior to the registration of the properties by the United States government. It is not the first time of our family to make a claim for the return of our land. We petitioned the return of our land from the Ancestral Land Commission and was placed claim for the return. This was around 2009. It was if my memory serves me right. At the time of the petition, I felt that we had support of the Commission and all those present. In fact, the representative from the Attorney General's office were present, and while they objected to the process on how the land was transferred to the Ancestral Land Commission, they did not object to the return of the land to the original landowner. They were the party to advise that the family should seek from the legislature to legally transfer the property to the family, that the family can finally file for their return. As you can see, the family has made several attempts. As you can imagine, The family has made several attempts from various senators to corrective measure to transfer the property into the correct and legal manner. And I would like to thank Senator Joseph Agustin for introducing Bill number 4138 Core and for the committee for hearing this bill and taking the initial step to correct the action that was that have stole the proper return of ancestral land. It has been a long journey for our family to regain our properties which were taken from the U.S. government. The family would like the opportunity to file a claim to the property. Well, we believe that that was originally part of the family estate, the estate of my grandparents, Juan and Rosario from Titano. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for your testimony. Saina, you wanted to provide testimony?
May I please have
Yes,
a few
ma'am.
minutes?
Yes.
I do not have anything written down to read, but my name is Rosita Titano Birdwell. I am one of the administrators for my grandmother. One is in Titano and Rosario Flores Titano. I was raised by my great grandparents after my parents died. I cannot say that I regretted being there with old people, but I'm going to tell you I am very thankful that I had all of them because I've learned a lot. I have worked for a long time. I got married in 1954. I didn't graduate from George Washington High. However, I did pass 8th grade at Dididu Elementary School. I was noted as the representative from the university that my level in English is 12th grade and my level in math is 11th grade. I did graduate the top of the class, and I am very proud of it. Now, talking about my grandparents, oh my goodness. I've always said that if there's a heaven, my grandmother's in it. But otherwise, my grandfather's in charge of the other department because he doesn't put up with anybody. Even during the war, he was blind in 1934. Now, the Japanese bomb in 1941, my grandfather was outside cutting the grass by feeling it, sitting on a stool and trimming it with his knife. I learned to do a lot of cooking too, and I'm very proud of it because now I do a lot of baking by hand. I don't use machine. Don't forget, we don't have any machine before then, but my father, the oldest boy in the family, is almost like the man that's in charge of all the labor departments and everything. So if they have anything to do at the ranch, my grandmother would call the meeting and tell my father, this is what you guys would have to do, and it gets done. There's nothing that we didn't have. I am glad that we survived a concentration camp, and I am going to say that God has blessed us all through that because we were never hungry. We didn't have any guns, but my brothers were very skilled in slingshots, and we even had bird soup or barbecued birds and that with their slingshot. So I am very grateful for that. I cannot say that I can criticize anybody here that have gone through any war. And even you people are all working very hard. I have attended some of the meetings here, and I have to commend Dr. Tilahi. I was here one time, and I really feel very bad and very sorry for the way that the meeting went, but anyways, that's the way it is. I don't think that everybody is really slow. It's the timing that we have when we're thinking about something. when you think of something that is going to benefit all of us on the island, then you bring it to somebody, or that's what the Congress is all about. And bring it. And don't, make up your mind. Decide and discuss it. Don't just say, you're out of order, you're out of order. You listen to whatever the senator has to say before any of you would tell whoever wants to speak to say you're out of order. I don't like to speak either. I don't like to, like I said, I started to write a book in 1952. And I was in Michigan, the state of Michigan. That's where my husband, I married a guy that was in the Navy. And he had to take an early discharge because his parents were old people and they needed help. So he had to go home, and he did. But anyways, he was very, very good to me, taking care of me and taking care of. I had my first baby in Michigan, and that was great. So, but I also took upon myself when my husband started working that I cannot just sit at home, so I started working. I worked with the police department in Michigan. I also worked for the school board. I substituted, I formed a Girl Scout troop, and I worked with them. And I also I retired as a branch manager for the Bank of the United States, Bank of America. That's my last job, retired as a bank manager for Bank of America. I was voted into being an administrator in 2006. They had a meeting, and everybody, even my cousins, all wondered who I was. Who is that lady? How come she's asking about a certain kind of account? I just retired from a bank, so yes, I want to know what kind of, account do they have where you can withdraw, or do you have enough money for whatever the problem is? So I finally had to introduce myself to my cousin. I went over and I introduced myself. My name is Rosita Lisama Titano Purbo, and I am the oldest cousin in this family right now. I am 88 years old. I'll be 89 in July. And I'm going to tell you, I am very thankful that I can look out every day and say, thank you, Lord, for another day. I work very hard. I lost some weight. I've been in the hospital since April of last year. I've been in and out of the hospital many times. But I still go out there and fight the snakes, the lizard, the mosquitoes, and the ants. And I wash, when my washing machine broke down, I wash my hand. I told my son then, my son wasn't home. He was in Michigan, and he had a couple of operations in his hand, so he wasn't there to help me. But I told him, I said, it's a good thing you're not here, because if you're here, I'll have you make me a batea. And he said, Mom, what is a batea? I said, that's how we do laundry. I said, and that's what you're going to have to do when you get here if you don't. My bill was turned off this last week. I was like 10:30 in the morning. My whole power, everything is gone. I didn't know. I live near Palanta, Quinzonia, and the mayor's office is up there by the church. So, and I'm not supposed to be driving, by the way, but don't tell anybody. But I wasn't arrested for tickets or anything. Nobody stopped me for anything that they did out of law. But anyways, I'm trying very hard, and I want to thank all of you, because there's nobody that is really stupid. What you have to do is think about what is good for the people of Guam. Don't worry about what the other countries are doing or what the other neighbors are doing. What is good for me and what is good for the island of Guam. I have approached, when my husband was taking oxygen and I had to go to have his oxygen tank refilled, I found out from a few people that were waiting to see the doctor. They said they have to pay $35 to have a little tank refilled. And I said, my God, that for $35, and my husband uses a whole barrel of oxygen. So I went to, who was the Congress lady? It was Badalio, but she was of Ireland. But I went right to his office. I went right to her office, and I spoke to a gentleman named Mr. Parrish. And I told him, I said, this is not fun. I said, when people need this and they have to pay and they travel from Mauricio or Talifofo, and I said, and they have to pay so much money, that is a shame. So I think that you tell Mrs. Badallo when she comes back that they have to do something to get oxygen for the people that needs them. That is important. It's not important to just talk about it and then have a long discussion all day long about what's happening and that, you know. Do it, think about it. Who is it for? You have children, I have children. I am so glad that my kids are all doing well, thank goodness. But anyways, my son came up to accompany me I have to go to the hospital. So that means going off island again. Since April of last year, I have been back and forth in the hospital here and in the States. But I finally said, I'm going back to Guam. This place is too cold, I'm going to die. And so I come here and it gets so hot that now I have to turn the fans on. But that's okay. Anyways, for all of you that are working, continue working hard. I live in Zonia and always available. If I'm healthy enough, I will do whatever I can for anybody. I don't hesitate to help anybody, whether it's out in the street or whether at home. And we have helped people. It's not because I don't have that much money to spend on anybody. I don't go out shopping for myself. But if I have any to spare and somebody needs it, I will use it. So please continue working and help each other. You know, I know that this is having a discussion about some things you don't always have to excuse, but think of the purpose of what your reasoning is.
Thank you.
And that's what's worth it. It's for the people, for you and for everybody else. Don't think about, you know, whether I'm going to have a 2-story house or I'm going to have this and that. It really doesn't matter to me. When the wind is blowing, I said, oh, that feels good. When it doesn't rain, I ask God, please water my flowers. Thank you very much. So, anyways, thank you for giving me this chance. Thank you for giving me your time, and you too.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Oh, I want to mention something about my grandmother. She has this Bible. I mean, it's about this high, and it's a big Bible. And the reason why I want to talk today is because of JANOM. In that book, she says, and she told me, the reason why I'm not selling JANOM is because I have children, and they have children who may not be able to afford education. So they can live off of here, because we lived there during concentration camp, and we had people even from Maina. And then they come down and help during the week, and they carry produce up, and they go fishing, and they catch fish. And so that is the reason why my grandmother didn't sell the land. And I have a lot of questions to ask, because I did one time after I had the property registered in 2009. They've been paying over $8,000. And so I had to have JANOM, we have to a surveyor down there. And we got Mr. Castro, and he went down, and he did it. Well, from $8,000 to $5,000, I said, that's a relief, right? But now my head is clear as to what you guys have been doing with the land that you've been holding. Who's paying the taxes, and who's benefiting by it? While we still have the land in our possession, who is taking care of the taxes? And who's benefiting from the taxes? Do you follow me?
Yes.
Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Yes, because I did go about the 5,000 and they told me they cannot reimburse me the money, the difference. I said, well, okay, so we'll pay what's coming now, we'll pay it all. But I happen to pay the taxes. I worry about it. Well, this year's taxes in Hanum has not been paid yet. I still have the voucher for it, but I didn't pay it. My Frankie, where's Frankie? Administrator, I gave him all the checks and everything when I left to go to the States. And I told him, you take care of the taxes and take care of the bills for the account. I even opened up a box for the account so that they will get it. They didn't. Well, since they didn't, I had one of my cousins collect the mail, make a copy of it, and then I gave the rest to Frankie, and he knows it. Thank goodness he found the checks that I gave him, because I do not have any checks. He found it already. So I'm glad that he did. But I just wanted to mention that I try to keep track of what's going on, and I'm learning every day. Like I said, I listen. If I have enough time, if I don't have work to do at home, I would come and listen to what's going on, what you people are debating every day, and I'll be more than glad to listen, because
Thank you.
I do. I like to learn too, no matter how old I am, as long as I'm alive, and as long as the man upstairs is taking care of me. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
Thank you, ma'am, for your testimony, and don't worry about the driving. There's not a single police officer in here. The chief of police already walked out, so don't worry. Yeah.
Young folks that were in the police force, and they watch every move that I make.
Thank
if
you.
I step on the gas too much, they tell me I'm spending too much money.
Yeah, they didn't hear that one as well. Thank you, Auntie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless you all.
Mr. Flores, you have a testimony to also submit?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, sir.
Good
You're
afternoon, and for the
recognized.
record, my name is Christopher Camacho Flores. I'm heir to a original landowner. My father is Henry Tenorio Flores. And just a little bit of background. Next week, Tuesday, May 27th, I will be laying my father to rest at Guam Memorial Park. He was 94 years old. He's a war survivor. He was 12 years old during the war. Suffered a great deal under the Japanese occupation. And he will be laid to rest without ever seeing his land returned at Eagles Field. And he understands. But that's another story. I'm here in support of Bill number 41-38. And thank you, Senator Joseph Agustin, for sponsoring this bill. Thank you, Vice Speaker Ada, for being present, and also Senator Gumataotao for being present, because you are the new inductees into the 38th Guam Legislature, and I know that you would have an open mind into doing what's right. And it's just so hard to follow a great testimony from Auntie here, and she may be 88 years old, but her memory is better than a 12-year-old and better than mine. Another background is Frank. I'm here also on behalf of my primo. Just a little bit of background on him. When I was going through the senior ROTC training at University of Guam to become an Army officer, he was our TAC NCO. That stands for Tactical Non-Commissioned Officer. So he did all our training in tactics and leadership. And because of his leadership and his knowledge, he's also a retired command sergeant major in the Green Beret Special Forces. And I wasn't here when he provided testimony, but I know he probably didn't mention that part because he's a very humble soldier and very giving of his time. We were the first class out of UOG and the only class to win the Warrior of the Pacific Award at Fort Lewis, Washington during every summer when the cadets go out there and compete with, at that time it was Region 4, which is what the University of Guam region fell under on the ROTC program. As a matter of fact, one of our graduates received the rank of 1-star, Darren Cruz. He was the Assistant Adjutant General under the recent General Leon Guerrero. So with that, it's like what Auntie said earlier, that, you know, when you guys start debating about the land, you know, and I know that the bill says it will be entrusted into the Ancestral Lands Commission, and then within 30 days of the effective date, and then after 180 days, dispose of the land parcel and lot transferred by this act in a manner consistent with and pursuant to its enabling legislation and its mandates. I'm not a legalese expert, and I don't know what the ancestral lands manner consistent with pursuant to their enabling legislation and its mandates, but I'm into simple language. And I believe that language should be afforded into this bill, that it should just rightfully go back to the original landowners, okay, after it's entrusted into the Guam ancestral lands, because once it gets into a government agency, that's where it gets into a quagmire. And we're not here for a quagmire. It's simple. They have proof that they've owned this property. They took care of this property. I've been down to Hanum a lot. The proof is the same as the owners of Hinapsan. They were able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt to the Air Force and the military that they've owned and operated that land throughout its history. And the proof here is that these landowners have been taking care and been paying the dues of this property up in Hanum that is in question. So my only ask is do the right thing, return the land back to the original landowners after it gets into the Guam ancestral lands. And with that, thank you for allowing me to testify, and I will accept any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Flores, for your testimony this afternoon. I now would like to open this time for my colleagues to ask their questions, or if they have any comments, and give them 5 minutes to do so. Senator Gumataotao, I'll recognize you first. I'll keep the author of the bill for last, and his closing statement as well.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you all for being with us this afternoon. Mr. Chair, I only have just one more of a comment that I'm hoping that in the markup that we'll be able to make sure that we're providing the information from the Ancestral Lands Commission in terms of the subject lots, the acreage, topography, the availability of the infrastructure or any existing structures. I know that they may not, or they may have any maybe information on surveying or appraisals of the said properties, Mr. Chair, but I'm hoping, as kind of to what Mr. Chris was mentioning earlier, in terms of getting this kind of done, I think that it might make some sense that the Ancestral Lands Commission can provide the information back to the committee so that we can complete this process. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator. And we also received written testimony by the CHAMORRO, from the Ancestral Lands Commission that I'll be reading into the record after my colleagues have all asked their questions. And also there is a Ancestral Lands submitted a 90-page opinion by the Office of the Attorney General from 2009. And because of its size, it can be accessed through the Google Drive folder, colleagues, that was sent to all the senators today. Okay. Go ahead, Senator Taidugui. Senator Eulogio, I'm sorry. Ma'am, you're recognized for any questions or comments, ma'am.
All right, well, I was not able to review that document. One of my comments was going to be, and tomorrow, Ancestral Lands is not here to answer any of our questions.
Yeah, they just submitted testimony, so
Yeah.
what we'll do is we're going to leave the record open.
And then the CHAMORRO Land Trust also had asked, are they involved in this? Is this Department of Land Management is not here either to confirm?
No, just the Ancestral Lands Commission that was.
But Ancestral Lands is saying that property had not been transferred to them legally, that had been denied by the courts. So I want Department of Land Management to come in here and tell us, because the bill does not say who the land being transferred from, right? Yeah. And And if this Chamorro Land Trust is involved, I'd like to know what their stance is and have the opportunity to question them as well, Mr. Chair, both them and the Department of Land Management. And I want to thank all the family, the Titano family for being here today, and the Flores family for, and their testimony. And I very much appreciate the details that you have provided, and especially Mr. Guerrero, the very detailed accounting of the transactions and the history, and so that's very helpful for me. And this is the first time I'm seeing all those details. Thank you. And I think all the information that you have presented is very relevant, is very important. I agree with how you feel that this is not just that when the Navy took land because of refusal or inability to pay land taxes on it, and they took a lot of land that way, as you reminded everyone, that is an injustice. My question to Ancestral Lands is, if the properties returned to them, are they able to address that type of injustice or not? Because it's my understanding the law is very clear for them on which parcels they can administer and which ones they cannot. So I just need to know that, Mr. Chair, and that's why I need to talk to Ancestral Lands. And if this property was subsequently transferred to CLTC before the Ancestral Lands Commission was even created, I'd like to know that as well, make that confirmed on our record so we know exactly which agencies we are dealing with. But as to your request, I can see that it makes perfect sense. And my only issue, I guess, on the government, and you have said it was really the government that has also made inconsistencies throughout the years, is what are we going to do with all other lands that have been treated this way, right? I want to know whether the Ancestral Lands has ever, as part of its process, returned land to landowners that had been previously not condemned, but taken because of non-payment of taxes, right? And if not, how many other people would this type of process require us to consider as well, right? But as to your own property and the history of it, and I understand, and I want to commend, I think it was your grandmother, Rosalia, or Rosario, for really, and all of the family through all the years, but to have the foresight to keep the property. And Mrs. Birtwell, your testimony telling what she wrote in the Bible was very compelling, that they did it very intentionally, and that you are here today to advocate that their intentions, continue, they knew what they were doing, they knew what they wanted. And I guess it really was just, it's that this also went through the courts, and the courts denied the claim. They said no because the taxes were not paid, and the Navy government took this in a legal way. So all of these kind of injustices were also put before the court, and they said the property belongs to the government of Guam, not the family, because of it belonged to the Navy at the time. That's what they said. And all the courts since then have not been able to overturn that. So it would be a really big thing if we are going to overturn that here. And I think there would have to be a process that is established in order to do that fairly for other claims that come up in the exact same way. So I don't know, those are my thoughts at this right now, but I really do want to thank all of you, family, for being here and for helping us to understand, and wishing you the best. Jesus Masi, Mr. Chair. But I do hope we have a hearing with the agencies that are very critical to helping us make this in the right way. Jesus Masi.
So noted, Madam.
Senator Talai, I'd like to interject on what you just said regarding the Ancestral Land and the Chamorro Land Trust, that both agencies should be on the same page regarding this land. And also because of what the injustice, I think you would say, is government taking different parcels of land and which caused the Titano family to have not access, landlocked. So in the event that it should, come to fruition, they could consider, the landlocked would have created down at Hanum. And I'm sure that there is an area there that could have easement, whether a Bullcard Trail or whatever, in the past that should be considered.
Yeah, that's perhaps another reason why we would need I would like land management to help us with this, but it does also raise the point that, those are, some of those not necessarily created by the government of Guam, injustices, and all the injustices by the military, we are unable to take care of all of them right now. We've established a process to take care of some of them, and where the lands get returned from the military, but we will continue to consider and appreciate that. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Taidugui, you're recognized, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon to my colleagues, and good afternoon to everyone who's here today. I've been doing some research the last couple of days on this bill that was in front of me, wanting to know, what exactly happened. And I know that in Chamorro Land Trust, the property that goes there is property that is usually from government of Guam, or it's been land that's been condemned, while ancestral lands are lands that are given to that bank, ancestral lands, on properties that were crown properties. So I too was hoping that we'd have the agencies here today so that we can ask them these questions, because if we're going to finally take it out of the government of Guam bank, this property out of their jurisdiction, and place it in one of these two entities, which one do we do correctly? Is it ancestral lands? Is it considered crown property? I don't think so. If it was still considered that it belonged to the Titano family and taken away, then, or there was taxes that were not paid on the property, and it was condemned, then wouldn't go to Chamorro Land Trust. So that's why we want to make sure it's done right. I know that for years, they actually, one particular governor tried to take this parcel of property and put it in ancestral lands. And of course, he can't do that without legislative approval, so that was denied. And that was leaving this land like floating in the air. Where is it going to go so that the family can go to that entity and lobby for the land? Which entity do you go to? So I think part of this legislation is to finally put it in a place that it belongs, not in the government of Guam bank. The second part is that it has to follow the procedures of ancestral lands. If it goes to ancestral lands, they have rules, regulations, and requirements that it has to follow. So if we veer away from that, we're setting bad precedents. So this legislation would at least put it in somewhere that it needs to. But again, without the other entities here, Ancestral or Chamorro Land Trust, we really don't know which it should go into. So other than that, I look forward to, hopefully we'll have another public hearing on it, and not just for our sake, but for the family's sake too. Because sometimes you will talk to you'll go down to their department and agency, ask questions, and they don't give you any answers. And that's more frustrating than anything. So if we had them in front of us and we ask these questions, then they're on camera. They can't lie. If they do, then we'll catch them. So this is not just for our sake. This is for the family's sake, to have these entities come in front of us. So I thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to just say a couple concerns I had, as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator Taidugui. Senator Barnett, you're recognized, sir.
So just want to see Mr. Chair for the opportunity to speak, and I definitely want to thank the panel for the very insightful testimony, especially Senor Guerrero, for your testimony. But I tend to side with the retiring speakers in that I feel like there's a lot more information that we need to kind of clarify these situations. I know there have been previous attempts by maybe Governor Gutierrez to remedy this situation. And just also mindful now the bill is attempting to transfer these lots to the Guam Ancestral Lands Commission, but the Guam Ancestral Lands Commission basically in their testimony submitted to the senators says it makes reference to certified documents and Superior Court rulings, which I'm sure you're aware, that state the claimants are not entitled to the land, as the government of Guam maintains that the land should remain under government ownership. And so I'd just like to get more information as well, Mr. Chair, from Ancestral Lands, CHAMORRO Land Trust. But, you know, my grandmother, her land also, she's a Cabeza Flores, Manparentis, Radio BARRIGADA. You know, we used to drive by that all the time, and my grandparents would always say that could have been our property too. So I'm very sensitive to these land takings. I think Senator Terlahi is correct in that if we're going to address this issue, which is kind of centered, I think, at the base with the non-payment of taxes, what does that then do for other property owners who have lost their property in similar ways? So thank you, Mr. Chair, and Sidus Masi again to the family for providing this very insightful testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Barnett, for your comments. Senator San Agustin, for your comments and your closing, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to reemphasize that on the bill, it's very specific that once the land is transferred to the Guam Ancestral Land Commission, then they have to follow the legislative and its mandates to take the appropriate action. The land has been stuck where it's at today. And in order for any action to happen, it's got to move to the ancestral. Once it gets there, then I know the Titano clans, the family's going to do what they need to do. They got the record. Then the court figure out that their record is wrong. This record is more current. And then further on, it also says that when they ask the question about the condemnation roads, easement, Bullcart Trail shall remain as easement for public access and utilities. So we won't have to be concerned about the landlocked. Whatever exists will stay in existence. And with that, I would hope, Mr. Chairman, that we can bring this to a settle for the Titano clan. So, and I mentioned, I see Senator Barnett, na familia na Flores, go na familia Cueto, so that's some na familia. And I'm happy to promote, to get this thing done with the family of the Titano clan. And then we just move on from there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator San Agustin. Mr. Flores?
Mr. Chair, if I could just request, can we also get a copy of that 90-page written testimony that was submitted from, is it CHAMORRO Land Trust?
Yeah.
Thank you.
There was a 90-page opinion by the Office of the Attorney General.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Could we get a copy of that as well?
Yes, you can get a copy. The only other, perhaps, the question I have is as my colleague was asking, any discussion between with the military for access to the property? Has any discussion been had with it? No. No discussion. Okay. Thank you. So like I mentioned earlier, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just read the testimony from the Ancestral Lands Commission, what they submitted. And it's on Bill 41-38 COR. Buenas and Hoffaday, Vice Speaker added, regarding Bill 41-38 COR, the Guam Ancestral Lands Commission would like to offer the following points for your consideration. First, please note that the formal name of our agency is the Guam Ancestral Lands Commission. Second, concerning line 4 of the bill, we respectfully suggest replacing the phrase originally owned with claimed. Third, we would appreciate clarification regarding the entity responsible for transferring the property specified in the bill to the Guam Ancestral Lands Commission. Our agency has identified existing deeds, instrument number 665-867, 665-872, 665-881, and 665-875 that appear to have previously transferred these lots to GALC. We wish to understand if this bill is intended to address these existing deeds, and if so, what action should be taken concerning them. Finally, we wish to bring to your attention written testimony submitted to the Guam Ancestral Lands Commission on June 18, 2009, during a title hearing. This testimony, provided by the government of Guam through AAG Steve Newman, legal counsel for the Department of Land Management, urged the Commission to consider certified documents and Guam Superior Court rulings. The recommendation at that time was to find that claimants are not entitled to the land, as the government of Guam maintains that the land should remain under government ownership. Thank you for your attention to these points. Catherine T.C. Blas, Acting Executive Director, Guam Ancestral Lands Commission. So that was the testimony submitted by the Ancestral Lands Commission. And again, like I mentioned, for the 90-page opinion by the Office of the Attorney General, copies can be obtained for that testimony. And now there are no further questions or comments. This will conclude the hearing on Bill number 41. We're going to go ahead and take a 2-minute break just so we can clear the session for the public hearing hall for the Guam Police Department to come in and testify in the following 2 bills. We are in recess. Thank you. off day, and we're back this afternoon. We'll now proceed on hearing testimony for Bill number 51-38 COR, an act to amend Section 2 of Public Law 34-61 relative to transferring the title of ownership of lot number 7054-1, Municipality of JIGO, from the Chamorro Land Trust Commission to the Guam Police Department. Before I recognize the sponsor, once again, the Chamorro Land Trust Commission wanted to be here this afternoon. However, because of their scheduled board meeting, they were unable to attend this afternoon, but they will be allowed additional time to submit any testimony that they so desire to submit. Okay, to the author, Senator Gumataotao, you can recognize to open.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for this public hearing on Bill 51-38 COR, and for the opportunity to introduce the measure which transfers government of Guam property in JIGO to the Guam Police Department for a new and a much-needed police precinct in northern Guam. I'm going to add to a bit of the history that we heard a bit earlier in the first, for the first bill, and I'm going to add a little bit more to this particular measure. In 1993, former Guam Governor Joseph Addis signed into law Public Law 22-18, reserving government of Guam real property for future use by public agencies, including the Guam Police Department, again, for future use by the three branches of government. Public Law 22-18 reserved lot number 7054-4 in the municipality of JIGO, consisting of 3.5 acres for a police station. Also, Mr. Chair, Public Law 22-18 reserved nearby lot number 7054-1, consisting of 2 acres for a Department of Public Works satellite bus station. Fast forward, if you will, to legislation passed by the 34th Guam Legislature in Public Law 34-61. That was on November 15, 2017, some 24 years later, that altered the Government of Guam Reserved Lands list contained in Public Law 22-18 by transferring the title of ownership of that 2-acre lot number 7054-1 from DPW to the Chamorro Land Trust Commission. Interestingly, Public Law 34-61 found that a satellite bus station was already established on lot number 7054-4, and to avoid any disruptions to DPW's school bus operations, the law authorized for the administrative jurisdiction of the property to be transferred from GPD to DPW. Mr. Chair, building on the efforts of Guam Police Chief Stephen Ignacio and his GPD command staff to continue to identify funding for critical public safety facilities such as a new evidence building, an emergency communications center, and a new police precinct in JIGO, Bill 51-38 was introduced at the request of Chief Ignacio, recognizing GPD's desire to reclaim public property in the municipality of JIGO for this specific purpose. If approved, Bill 51-38 re-identifies public land for a police precinct, thereby strengthening police presence in northern Guam, acknowledging that public safety services are currently provided primarily through GPD's Dededo precinct. Mr. Chair, JIGO is home to an estimated 22,000 residents, and combined with the 48,000 residents of Dededo, both villages make up nearly half of Guam's total population of 168,000 people. In light of the ongoing military buildup in northern Guam and the economic activities that's resulting from its growth, Bill 51-38 represents this 38th Guam Legislature's commitment to protecting life and property through the investment of additional resources in our public safety and law enforcement organizations. I want to thank Police Chief Ignacio for working closely with my office to identify policy proposals that can and will help our women and men in uniform so that they can focus on doing what they do best, and that is to preserve law and order across our island community. Also, I want to send a very special thank you, if I could, to the JIGO Mayor, Francis Lozama, who reached out to my office via phone call and a follow-up email shortly after Bill 51-38 was introduced back in February. And in her email that is dated February 10, 2025, Mayor Lozama wrote that she was, quote, wholeheartedly in support of this proposed legislation, and she believes that it will significantly benefit the JIGO community. She noted that through her conversations with Lieutenant James Cruz from the Guam Police Department, Mayor Lozama had mentioned to GPD that since the new Dedado precinct was established, the distance from the JIGO community has increased, leading to longer response times in emergency situations. According to Mayor Lozama, this has compounded concerns about rising crime rates and the reduced visibility of patrol officers in her neighborhoods. Mayor Lozama wrote that it was clear that the JIGO community would overwhelmingly agree that a dedicated JIGO precinct is essential for enhancing safety and security. Mr. Chair, I do not think I could have made a stronger argument for Bill 51-38 than Mayor Lozama has made so far, recognizing the sentiment expressed by her residents and the crime data that has been made available by GPD. Of the 282 crimes committed in JIGO, in 2023, 186 were committed against persons: rape, aggravated assault, kidnapping, 20 against property, theft from motor theft, motor vehicle theft, vandalism of property, and 36 against society, drug and narcotic violations, and weapons law violations. According to the GPD 2023 Uniform Crime Report, the agency's northern precinct in Dedado had only 34 full-time police officers on staff to provide services at a ratio of less than 1 police officer per 1,000 residents. Comparatively, the Tumon-Tamuning-Harmon precinct had 32 full-time police officers to provide services at a ratio of 1.8 officers per 1,000 residents, and the Hoggett precinct had 32 full-time police officers with 1 officer assigned per 1,000 residents. Mr. Chair, as our community continues to celebrate the service and sacrifices of our police officers through the month of May, including National Police Week, which concluded this past weekend, Bill 51-38 recognizes the challenges that our men and women of GPD continue to face every single day, not only with the shortage of uniformed personnel, but the absence of agency assets, including an additional police precinct to serve and protect our families, our businesses, and our communities in JIGO and across our northern villages. With that, Mr. Chair, I look forward to the presentations this afternoon and to continue working with the relevant stakeholders on any amendments that may be needed to move Bill 51-38 COR forward. So this is Masi, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Gumataotao. I'd like to recognize Madam Mayor Francis Lozama from the Municipality of JIGO. Ma'am, would you be also providing testimony on this bill, or you're just here to support? You're being testimony. Sure, please come to the. I'd like to go ahead and recognize Chief Ignacio for his testimony on bill number 51-38. And again, Chief, this is just for this bill, 51, and then on our next one, we'll also provide separate testimony for that as well. Thank you, Chief. You can go ahead and begin.
Buenas noches. I am Stephen C. Ignacio, Chief of Police of the Guam Police Department. Good afternoon, Vice Speaker Ada, Chair of Committee on Land, Environment, Housing, Agriculture, Parks, and Infrastructure, and Senator Shawn Gumataotao, the author of the bill, Senator Teresa Lai, Senator Barnett, Senator Talai, and Senator San Agustin. Thank you for the opportunity to present testimony in support of Bill 51-38, introduced by Senator Shawn Gumataotao, to amend Public Law 34-61, relative to transferring lots number 7054-1 located in JIGO from the Chamorro Land Trust Commission to the Guam Police Department. This transfer is a crucial step toward establishing a dedicated police precinct in JIGO, an initiative that is vital to improving law enforcement response times and service delivery across northern Guam. As Guam continues to grow in both population and infrastructure, it is essential that public safety resources keep pace. JIGO in particular is one of the fastest growing villages on the island, yet it remains underserved by current police coverage. The Derro precinct, which currently serves JIGO, is stretched thin, managing a large, high-demand service area without the capacity to fully meet the evolving needs of the region. JIGO's growing strategic importance, driven by military expansion, increased residential and commercial development, and the presence of critical infrastructure, further underscores the need for additional police facility. A precinct in JIGO will not only reduce response times, but also support stronger community engagement, improve officer visibility, and ensure the safety and security of both our civilian population and the growing military presence. Approving this land transfer will allow the Guam Police Department to establish a permanent presence in the northernmost part of the island and fulfill its mission of protecting and serving all residents effectively. I respectfully urge your favorable consideration of this proposal, which will help build a safer, more resilient community in JIGO and the greater northern region. Next slide, please. The Derro precinct serves over 70,000 residents, which is about 45% of Guam's total population, covering a large area that includes Derro and JIGO and parts of BARRIGADA, Mangilao as well. JIGO, with a population of 28,201 residents, is still serviced by the Derro precinct, which presents challenges in response time and service efficiency. The distance between Derro and JIGO is roughly 5 to 7 miles, or about 10 to 15 minutes, under normal traffic conditions. However, with around 100,000 vehicles on the island, and nearly half of them concentrated between Derro and JIGO, traffic congestion significantly impacts in response times, especially during peak hours or in the event of construction or auto collisions. These delays highlight the pressing need for a more localized law enforcement presence to improve response times and better service the growing communities. Next slide, please. The current challenges faced by the Derro precinct are considerable. It covers 7 beat areas, each with growing population densities. The geographical spread, coupled with a high volume of calls for service, results in increased response times. As JIGO continues to expand, this situation would only worsen. The lack of a dedicated precinct in JIGO leaves a gap in law enforcement coverage, and a new precinct in JIGO will provide a more localized, efficient police presence, improving response times to emergencies in the northern part of the island. Next slide, please. JIGO is home to several large residential areas, including subdivisions like Summer Homes, Gadzinero, and Villa Pasita. These areas continue to grow in both the numbers of homes and residents, creating increased demands for public safety. The wide geographical spread of these residential areas further complicates response times for officers coming from Derro precinct. As new developments continue to rise, the need for a closer police presence becomes more urgent to ensure safety and reduce response times. Next slide, please. The rapid growth of residential developments in both JIGO and Derro is contributing to overstretched resources at the existing precinct. According to the 2020 census of Guam, JIGO and Derro combined account for over 40% of the island's total population, despite only comprising 2 out of 19 villages. Although Derro has a larger population and more housing units than JIGO, JIGO has experienced a significantly higher rate of growth in housing units. Between 2010 and 2020, the census recorded 473 housing units in JIGO, although this number may be understated, as the actual number of permits issued during this period was around 538. Since 2020, there have been 318 residential construction permits in JIGO, with 125 new permits in 2021 alone. JIGO has had the highest number of residential construction permits of any village on Guam in the last 5 years, accounting for 21 to 28% of all residential permits on the island. JIGO currently has the most new homes planned on Guam, including several large-scale subdivisions. These include the Tre Vista subdivision, 36 homes, Legacy subdivision, 28 homes, J524 Development LLC, 86 homes, and Song Song Hill subdivision, 72 homes, totaling 222 new homes. YIGO's land area and topography make it the largest village on the island with considerable capacity for further development. As such, the growth in YIGO is expected to continue, placing even more strain on the existing law enforcement resources. The rapid population growth in YIGO and Deredo is contributing to an increased demand for law enforcement services. With new subdivisions, the volume of calls for service and traffic incidents is rising, further stressing the capacity of the Deredo precinct. A YIGO precinct would provide much needed relief by improving coverage and response times in these newly developed areas, alleviating some of the pressure on the Deredo precinct. Additionally, YIGO is home to some of Guam's more marginalized communities, including Zero Down, Gil Baza, and Gil Breeze, which are located between 7.5 to 9.7 miles from Deredo precinct. These areas require travel through heavily congested parts of the island, where bumper-to-bumper traffic is common, especially during rush hour. The establishment of a YIGO precinct would help address these traffic and public safety challenges, ensuring that law enforcement services are more accessible to these underserved communities. Next slide, please. YIGO is home to several key educational institutions, including D.L. Perez Elementary, Matsanano Elementary, UPI Elementary, F.B. Leon Guerrero Middle School, and the soon-to-be-built Simon Sanchez High School, Dominican Catholic, and Majesty schools as well. Together, these schools serve a combined total of over 4,300 students and staff, making them central to the community's safety and well-being. Given the large student population and the potential for emergencies, it is crucial that law enforcement be readily available to respond quickly. The lack of a dedicated precinct in YIGO could lead to delays when responding to incidents at these schools. These delays pose risk to the safety of students and staff, underscoring the need for police presence within close proximity to these vital institutions. Next slide, please. YIGO's strategic location near Anderson Air Force Base, Camp Blas, make it a critical area for both national defense and public safety. With over 1,548 military personnel stationed on and off base and 1,300 dependents, population growth is driving up demand for law enforcement. Add to that over 400 construction workers expected annually through 2035 to support defense infrastructure projects. It's clear that call volumes, traffic incidents, and patrol needs will continue to rise. Military activity further compounds this demand. Anderson Air Force Base hosts over 7 major military exercises annually, including Cope North, Agile Reaper, and Valiant Shield. These operations involve increased troop and aircraft movement, creating elevated security and traffic risk. Camp Blas is also scheduled to host future exercises like Exercise Lujo, increasing pressure on GPD resources. YIGO also houses high-security assets like the THAAD battery and the expanded integrated air and missile defense system, which requires a constant law enforcement presence for incident response and threat detection. A dedicated YIGO precinct is essential to meet the growing demands, improve emergency response, and protect both the civilian population and the critical U.S. military infrastructure. Next slide, please. The Deredo precinct currently serves a vast area that includes Deredo, YIGO, Barrigada, and Mingilao, one of the largest and most populated jurisdictions on island. This broad coverage continues to place significant strain on the precinct's resources. In 2024 alone, the Guam Police Department received 31,371 calls for service. Of these, Deredo and YIGO accounted for 8,927 calls, 27% of all calls island-wide. These included significant numbers of serious crimes, such as 91 assaults, 62 aggravated assaults, and 254 burglaries. This concentration of criminal activity, combined with rapid population growth, has pushed the precinct beyond its limits. Officers are stretched thin. Response times are increasing, and public safety is at risk. A dedicated precinct in JIGO would decentralize operations, improve coverage, and strengthen public safety outcomes for our northern villages. Next slide, please. In 2024 alone, there were 1,200 reported crashes across the island, with Dededo and JIGO accounting for at least 332 or 28%. With JIGO's growing population and the influx of military personnel and contractors, this number is expected to increase further. Delays in response times for collisions due to the distance officer must travel from Dededo precinct can lead to further complications in emergency management and increase the risk of secondary traffic incidences. Next slide, please. In addition to rapid residential growth, Guam is home to over 16,000 registered businesses. Of these, approximately 6,446 businesses, or 40%, fall under the jurisdiction of the Dededo precinct. That includes 4,668 businesses in Dededo, or 29%, and 1,778 in JIGO, or 11%. With continued commercial expansion expected in both villages, including new retail centers and office developments, the demand for law enforcement services will only increase. Establishing a JIGO precinct would help distribute the workload more effectively and improve response times in these growing commercial areas. This strategic investment ensures law enforcement is prepared to meet the demands of an expanding business district and a growing northern population. Next slide, please. The establishment of a police precinct in JIGO would bring numerous benefits to the community. Faster emergency response. Officers stationed in JIGO would be able to respond more quickly to emergencies, improving safety and reducing response times. Enhanced community policing. A dedicated precinct would foster stronger relationships between the police and the community, promoting trust and cooperation. Improved resource allocation. A local precinct would allow for more efficient deployment of police resources, ensuring that personnel and equipment are used where they are needed most. Strategic law enforcement presence. With the JIGO's proximity to key military and residential areas, a precinct in this location would provide more effective law enforcement coverage, enhancing public safety. Next slide, please. To support the establishment of a new police precinct in JIGO, we propose transferring Lot 7054-1 from the Chamorro Land Trust Commission back to the Guam Police Department. This lot offers an ideal location for the precinct and provides the infrastructure needed to strengthen law enforcement operations in the northern region. Notably, this land was originally designated for government use and sits adjacent to property previously reserved for Guam Police Department, making it the most strategic and logical choice for the new precinct. Originally, Public Law 22-18 reserved Lot 7054-4, or 3.5 acres, for a police station, and Lot 7054-1, 2 acres, for a DPW satellite bus station. However, subsequent legislation changed these designations. Public Law 34-17 transferred Lot 7054-4 from GPD to DPW after a bus satellite office was built on the site. Later, Public Law 34-61 transferred Lot 7054-1 from DPW to the Chamorro Land Trust. As a result, GPD lost access to both lots originally intended to support public safety in northern Guam. Despite repeated efforts over the years, GPD has not been able to reclaim land in JIGO. Today, the department seeks to reclaim public property to meet the critical needs for a northern precinct. Transferring Lot 7054-1 to GPD is essential for addressing the growing public safety demands and ensuring GPD can continue to protect and serve the community. Next slide, please. In conclusion, the transfer of Lot 7054-1 from the Chamorro Land Trust Commission to the Guam Police Department for the establishment of a JIGO police precinct is a critical step in addressing the growing public safety needs of northern Guam. With an increasing population, rising crime rates, and anticipated growth in traffic-related incidents, a dedicated precinct will enhance our ability to protect residents, students and school staff, local businesses, and critical military assets. Thank you for your time and consideration. I welcome any questions.
Thank you, Chief, for your testimony, and we'll go ahead and proceed to Madam Mayor Frances Lizama, the municipality of JIGO. Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Vice Speaker Toniata, Senator Shawn Gumataotao, Joseph Agustin, Therese Terlahi, Chris Barnett, and Senator Tello Taidegui. My name is Frances Lizama, the Mayor of JIGO, and I'm here today to provide testimony in full support of Bill 51-38, introduced by Senator Gumataotao, transferring ownership of Lot 7054-1 in JIGO from CHAMORRO Land Trust Commission to the Guam Police Department. Hearing of the introduction of Bill 51-38 by Senator Gumataotao, I looked at the big picture, and the big picture was the community of JIGO. First, JIGO has never had a dedicated police precinct, only a COBAN in the past. Response time is a concern. Police presence is lacking, and crime rates have risen and continue to rise. We need a precinct in JIGO to bridge these gaps, strengthen community safety, and foster a visible police presence. This is vital for reducing crime and increasing trust between residents and law enforcement. As the second most populated village with continued growth, establishing a JIGO precinct command is a significant step forward. It will help deter criminal activity and enable law enforcement to proactively serve our JIGO community. However, police presence alone isn't enough. We, as residents, must also be vigilant and united in our efforts. I have discussed with Lieutenant James Cruz, the late Lieutenant Ron Titano, and Lieutenant Anthony Chuckle in the possibility of opening the COBAN at the JIGO Mayor's office. I am very supportive of the idea, provided officers are actively assigned to operate the COBAN, ensuring our community has tangible daily police presence and reassurance. Gone are the days of living our lives carefree, our windows, doors, and vehicles unsecured, and just being able to live a simple, relaxing life. With the recent incidents, including the case involving 3 siblings, highlights the urgency of increasing police visibility and actions in JIGO. Events like this have heightened community concerns and fears, but also awareness and vigilance as well, making it essential that we prioritize public safety not only in JIGO, but across our island. I sincerely hope that this bill progresses, gets scheduled for discussion on the session agenda, and passes through this legislative body for passage into law. I am fully and wholeheartedly in support of this bill and commend Senator Gumataotao for introducing it. This legislation will lay the groundwork for increased community vigilance, foster cooperation with CAPE volunteers, and empower JIGO residents to take back ownership of their safety and their village. Along with my testimony today, the JIGO Municipal Planning Council adopted a resolution in support of this bill at its April 9th regular meeting. Copies were transmitted via email to the Speaker, Senator Gumataotao, Vice Speaker Toniata, and the Chief of Police. Again, I extend my heartfelt thank you to Senator Gumataotao for the introduction of this bill and the Committee on Public Safety for conducting this hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for your testimony this afternoon. I'm going to go ahead and open up the panel to questions or comments from my colleagues. Again, keeping in mind the 5 minutes. Let's go ahead and start with Senator Agustin, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, I just got, I guess, one question. What happened to the property that we passed by law to give to GPD, the one next to the power station?
That's for the evidence control section.
Yeah.
The contract has been awarded. About a month ago, I signed off on the blueprints.
Okay.
So that they should be breaking ground soon. But that's strictly evidence section because we're just currently leasing property for all of our evidence. So
okay.
When we built that, that's a different facility and different use, different purpose.
All right, thank you, Chief.
Yes,
and for the listening audience, I'm a former police officer. I live in JIGO. I'll be less than a mile away from the precinct, so I look forward to seeing it because where I live, there's all a bunch of badges in the road I'm at on La Chance. So I know that we'll all feel comfortable when we hear the shooting, because then there's a precinct nearby that can spot them, because they're not on our street. They're right outside our street, because I know that if there was, I think a lot of the cops and federal agents that are on that street is going to come out and say, Alpha, we need it around. But anyway, thank you, and thank you, Senator Gumataotao. I do support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator San Agustin. Senator Tlahi, ma'am, you're recognized if you have any questions or comments.
Thank you. I didn't hear him. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Chief and Mayor, and all of you who are here in support of the bill. My concern is that I don't think anyone objects to what the police department wants to do in JIGO. That's your discretion. I think that's the reason why. I mean, I agree with your assessment of the situation about crime, the population in JIGO, and what is needed on our island. I think that's why when the land was originally reserved for the police, that's why the legislature back then decided to allow all those reservations of land. It also, in the 34th Guam legislature, made sure, at the request of GPD, that they came in here for a switch of land from the one that was reserved to a different lot. And that's the one now, the GPD. And I'm surprised the bill, when it talks about the history of the land, completely skips over that part, that there were parcels switched between DPW, CLTC, DLM, and GPD, and that's how GPD ends up. You do have a lot in JIGO, correct?
Yes, ma'am. That's the lot that Senator San Agustin was referring to. So I think what happened back then is they were looking for a piece of property to build the evidence control section, because there was money awarded through a Department of Interior grant.
That's correct. But it didn't want the original parcel that it had reserved.
I don't know any of the conversations at that time. I was not the chief.
It's in the previous laws.
Right.
So when I researched all the previous laws to find out how all these switches were made, that's what happened. Is they recognized that they had one parcel, but this other parcel, they wanted to use it for evidence, so they thought this other parcel would be more suitable for their needs at the time. We asked them about the headquarters, and they said, or a precinct, and they said they could not. They did not want to build those at that point. They needed to build the evidentiary, and that's the one they were going to get assistance from GURA back then. So today, I just want the record in the bill to be very clear. This is the CHAMORRO Land Trust property. You also have property, so nobody took your property and left you without anything. It was a switch, just like they switched the DPW property for the bus station, because that was already, they had a bus station built. I think that's the one that you were supposed to have originally, right?
No, so what I discovered through some research is that there was an administrative error when they were typing up the public law in 1993. I think it was just a letter designation.
The reservation of land.
Right, because the DPW had always been where they're at now.
All right, well, that was all supposedly resolved in the two laws that had been passed since then. So this, but GPD still had the same portion of land, and CLTC still had the same portion of land. That's what happened. So now they want to take the property out of the CLT's portion and give that in addition to GPD. And so I was hoping you were going to tell us that you did remember that you owned the land there in JIGO, and that you were going to switch with the CLTC for those two portions. But now you want to take both.
Hard to remember when I wasn't the chief, ma'am.
Pardon?
It was hard to remember that because I wasn't the chief then, so I don't know what the dealing was.
Because...
Right, understood.
Yeah.
But as we look at the vision for the Guam Police Department and where the department needs to go and the services that we need to improve upon, JIGO and Deredo are being severely underserved.
Yeah.
They just have
no
too much people.
to that, Mr.
Understood,
Chief. Yeah, my objection is we're taking land out of the CHAMORRO Land Trust. We're not looking at any other reservation of land for any other agency that is not using their agent. We're taking it out of the CHAMORRO Land Trust. They have plans for this land, and I don't believe they're not here because they have a meeting at the exact same time that this hearing was set. They've had this meeting set for 30 days, and I think they need to be here And I think the Department of Land Management should be here to just show us the history of the land so that our assumptions that we put into the bill and in our testimony are actually very accurate, so that it shows that everybody had a parcel. They were switched because of different reasons. The bus stop existed. They wanted to build evidence instead of a precinct. They needed it where they wanted it to go. That was their choice. Chamorro Land Trust also has plans for this property that's going to support their construction of, I think they have commercial plans for this property that's going to support the construction of residential as well, which is their mission.
That might be the, I think the commercial development you're talking about appears to be that 12 acres of property where we carved out the 3 acres for the evidence control section. And I do understand
right, the surrounding
your statement
area,
about
right?
the land swap. Yeah,
that's correct.
Right.
So the area that they have been making plans to use is the area that now you want. So you want to switch, or I thought you wanted to switch.
Yeah.
So you just want to add it to your inventory.
Yes. Is away from that big 12-acre piece of property that you're talking about.
Well, they know the numbers, so it's 7054-1, and that's the same number that's in your bill. So you still want 7054-1, the triangle?
Yes, that's the one fronting Route 1, which is, the better place for a precinct.
All right, and that's the part too that, see, they're not here, and I don't want to speak for them, but I do, I think it's not correct that we proceed without them, and that we make it sound like you're not able to reclaim this. The word reclaim our land is really not accurate when the laws that have been passed are very, very clear. They show that there were, not you, Chief, but GPD switched the parcel that it was going to use, that everybody had parcels and they were going to switch. So it's not a reclaim, it's really a taking out of. And have we talked to Department of Land Management about this? Because does GPD have other reserved lands on Guam?
I do. There's one more in Salampago, but it's on the side of a cliff. Mm-hmm. Or it's actually, I think, a cliff.
So that's the land that GPD reserved back then?
When we were trying to build the central precinct, with Gura under the CDBG, we had no land to build it on. Matter of fact, Gura had to go out and buy land to build the central precinct. I'm trying to avoid having to buy land, trying to get land, government land, so that we can build a government facility to serve the people. That's all I'm trying to do.
No, I understand, and I support that, and I definitely support you doing it in JIGO. I just don't support that we come in and we blindside the CLTC by not discussing with them, after those transactions took place back then, especially after they've made plans as well.
Understood. Understood, ma'am.
So I think the other property is there. So this bill now wants 7054-1, but GPD currently controls 7054-R5, right? Yes.
Right.
They were all divided from the same lot. That's why the history is so very clear, and that's why I just don't like the history to be told like somebody took the land away and didn't give it back to you. That's not at all what happened.
It's one word, and we'll remove it.
All right. But if we're going to look for land for GPD or any other agency, and we know we need it in JIGO because the Dedito precinct can't serve JIGO enough, or I don't know, we're going to have enough officers to fill a JIGO station as well, or did you want to build a headquarters? Because some parts of this talked about a headquarters, I thought, but is it just a precinct?
I don't think building a headquarters in JIGO would be good for the community. So it's too far. Yeah.
So it's a precinct, right?
Yeah, it's just a precinct.
And does GPD currently control the Koban, or is it being used or not?
So we don't have a Koban in JIGO. What the mayor was talking about is that she had reserved and has a part of her office, the mayor's office, carved out for our use.
Okay, I thought she wants it
returned. It's just,
Okay.
So at the time during my husband's term, it was used as a Koban. But
Want it returned to the mayor's office, right? That's what you're asking?
it's still part of the mayor's office. We just we're allowing GPD to use it if they
Okay.
so want to open up the
that.
Coben.
Okay. Thank you, Senator.
I just wanted to clarify that that also is something that the chief agrees with, that they are relinquishing any interest in that.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I would just ask, you that
Again.
it's not the same to just get a testimony from CLTC in these hearings for these purposes, if we could have them here so that they could discuss with us and answer questions when we're going to take land out of their inventory, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Taitigui, you're recognized, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Half a day, Chief, and of course, Mayor, good to see you. Of course, everyone that's here too, all your hardworking police officers, especially my good buddy over there, Charglov, thank you. No, there's no doubt about it. You know, I mean, it's very populated in JIGO. It's going to need some representation, some public safety, areas there that people can feel a little bit more safe. You know, that the police officers are nearby, or at least, an area in which they can come to right away compared to driving all the way up to Derrito. There's no doubt about it. But I have a concern about, not having Chamorro Land Trust here as well, and hopefully they'll provide testimony. But I do have a question regarding, you want this property, right? Just like how the impound, remember when that property that was given to Guam Police Department to create a place to impound vehicles? And what happened was EPA came and said that it was environmentally, it was not a sound place to have vehicles stored there. I heard that there was property, something up there. So maybe it's the one that Senator San Agustin was talking about, the evidence, but it had nothing to do with vehicles being, impounded vehicles being stationed there?
I'm not tracking a lot or facility strictly for impounded vehicles. When we do build an evidence control section facility, it's going to be a 10,000 square foot facility, and it will have some space for some cars. But again, we don't want to turn it into an impound lot per se, where we're just storing cars, because again, we're in northern Guam, and we all understand the concerns about sitting on top of an aquifer.
So that's what you mean by evidence, right?
Right. Yeah. So there are cars that are impounded for evidence. But we work hard to make sure that we don't keep them too long, because we shouldn't have to keep them forever.
Right. So that being said, how long did it take you before you finally got the grant to, or the funding from Department of Interior to build this facility?
Ooh, gosh, we're talking many years. That was way before me.
Over a decade, right?
Right. I think we go back to 2015, maybe.
Oh, 2015?
Somewhere around that time.
Okay.
Maybe longer.
So about a decade, about 10 years to do that?
Yeah, so it's been a
years.
while.
Yeah,
that Interior
quite some
grant
time.
was awarded many years ago.
So now with this property that you're asking for, how long is it going to take before you get any funding? Or do you need the property first in order to get grant funding to build the precinct there?
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. So, my position is, if you want to go out and ask somebody to build your precinct, or you want to come to the legislature and say, I need money for or authorization to do financing or whatever to build a precinct, well, the first question is, where are you going to build it, and who owns the land, right? So I figured, step one, let's get land. Step two, which we've already undertaken, we have submitted a notice of intent to GURA for the CDBG, or the regular Community Development Block Grant. We have submitted to the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery, the CDBG-DR, a statement or a notice that we would like funding for building of a JIGO precinct. We have had conversations and met with Congressman Moylan in his office to pursue maybe funding from the U.S. government through the Defense Community Improvement plans. Yeah, so those are the different avenues. And of course, if none of them work, then, we may have to come back and look for other alternative financing through the assistance maybe of GIDA, right? So looking at Talofofo Precinct, which is awarded and is going to be built and done, hopefully anticipated by next year, we're looking at 6.2 million for a 6,500 square foot facility.
In Talafofo.
In Talafofo. So that's underway. So we're building a new eastern precinct, or a precinct on the eastern side.
And that funding came from?
CDBG.
Yes, so you're planning on doing the same thing.
We've already submitted our notice of intent to GURA for the new cycle of funding. And also, forget what the term is that they're using for the CDBG DR, the disaster recovery.
And the land that it's sitting on in Talafofo, who owned that land? Was it government of Guam or Chamorro Land Trust?
I do. So was part of the Talafofo mayor's inventory. So it was right next door to the Talafofo gym. But there was part of the property that was sitting on Guam Waterworks Authority as well. So Guam Waterworks Authority had to administratively transfer some that portion of the property we needed to for the precinct to GURA, I think. Yeah, I believe it was GURA.
So the land was government of Guam, still under the inventory of the mayor's office?
It was government of Guam under control of the mayor's office.
Of the mayor's,
right.
Okay. So this probably, now is any of the grants giving you an opportunity to get revenue that can pay for property, or is there an opportunity for that, or you have to own the property in order to get this grant?
Well, in my experience, if you don't own a property to build it, as in the case of the Central Precinct,
right.
They had to go out and buy property.
Yeah.
Right, and that's how we ended up at the old Coke property up there in Sinanya.
Yeah.
I think they used to make Coke up there or something.
Yeah. And how did you...
Coca-Cola, sorry.
Coca-Cola
Not
plant,
Coke,
right. And that property
Thank you for
was...
correcting me, sir. They make Coca-Cola soda, not Coke.
Coca. So, and that property was purchased through, how was that property purchased?
GURA purchased the property.
Right.
Yeah, so
right.
I think they're going to be building, somebody's building, I think a fire station is going to be next door. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so it was actually, so there was funding by GURA to purchase the property, correct? So, yeah, I don't know how it would work where you could actually purchase through Chamorro Land Trust, that property, because, we are taking away from their inventory, and they not only use that for, generating revenue to be able to, build infrastructure in these lands, but, you're also taking inventory away from families who need a home, farming, the ability for people to farm. So we want it to be fair, right? And it's good to know that at least you are looking at the grant funding to build this, because we don't want to just give you property and then we have to wait another 10 years before something is built. So thank you for answering my questions. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for the question, Senator.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Tidy. We appreciate you. Senator Barnett, you're recognized, sir.
Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to speak, and buenas noches, Chief. Nice to see you again, Mayor, and buenas to the command staff that's present. Chief, I think in your testimony you laid out the case for YIGO Police Precinct very articulately. It's very compelling. Your writing and information that's in there, but it kind of got me thinking when I also read the YIGO mayor's testimony, where she testifies here, YIGO has never had a dedicated police precinct, only a Coban in the past. Response time is a concern. Police presence is lacking, and crime rates have risen and continue to rise. So to kind of expand on what Senator Taitigui said, I don't know what we're doing to address immediately these concerns from the mayor and the community of YIGO, and I just pray that we're not going to just wait until the YIGO precinct is done. So I guess that's kind of my first question is, like I said, your testimony is very compelling. You brought up a lot of great points. So what are we doing in the meantime to address a lot of these issues that you stated in your testimony, and that the mayor has also shared her concerns about?
So we still, of course, continue to patrol YIGO, but again, like I've laid out in the testimony, we're Deredo Precinct covers the 2 most populated villages on the island, and with that comes crime. So I was even asked, are we going to make YIGO a substation of Deredo? And I said, that's not a good idea, Because if you build JIGO as a substation of Deredo, what happens is that Deredo would still have administrative and command and control over the substation. So that Deredo precinct, commander, whatever, can still redeploy resources. But if you build it as a standalone precinct, it gets its own command staff, it gets its own number of officers, and it gets to concentrate its efforts and patrolling strictly in JIGO. And so that's what's happening now is that, sometimes they don't get to see a police officer in JIGO, or the response times is slow because we're down in Deredo as well. And so if you look at just trying to imagine everything from Route 1 and Route 16, the mall, all the way up to Anderson, all the way around to Gafagumas, and then don't forget to go back to the eastern side, Route 15, that's where all of Deredo is at. And if you only have 4 to 6 officers, and there's 7 beats up there, they're stretched thin. Doesn't mean that we don't respond to the needs of JIGO and the mayor. We stay in touch. Like she said, she has regular, constant communications, and she knows that she can call Lieutenant Chuck, who's the commander, and Captain Paul, and anybody from the Operations Bureau. We will respond, and we will take care of them. But again, having JIGO, its own precinct, would centralize the efforts to just JIGO alone.
Right, and again,
so that's the benefit.
I support the JIGO precinct. I just worry that, to me, the issue is not that we don't have a precinct at JIGO, and that's why JIGO is not getting the coverage. It's just generally the shortage of police officers, across the board, So I worry that we're going to build a new precinct in JIGO, and it's going to be like the new hospital. Who's going to staff it? Is it going to be sitting there empty? So could you address that point?
Sure. We continue to hire. I have 1 cycle going in now, and I have a 2nd cycle starting in June. So, we continue the recruitment. The announcement will go out again in June for the police officer trainees, and we'll continue to recruit people. We have the funding. We just don't have enough candidates, but we continue to recruit, and we continue to make sure that we get people in the door and out to the streets.
Thank you, Chief. Are you able to address the mayor's request here? As she said in her testimony, she's discussed with former Lieutenant James Cruz, defunto Lieutenant Ron Titano, and Lieutenant Chaco about the possibility of opening the Koban. And again, to be clear, we're not talking about a physical Koban like the one in Jotnya that's been sitting abandoned. She just, not Bear Lizama, but I remember previously there had been an officer stationed. So do you have the means or the manpower to do that while we figure out how long it's going to take to construct the JIGO precinct?
So again, the JIGO Koban is really just an office within the mayor's office building. And so, it's good, sit down, write reports, right? And maybe, take a break. But, it's not an office where you have facilities that, you can bring an arrestee, sit down, do an interview, put him in a holding cell, And that's the concept, of course, of the precinct, right? Just to make sure that we have the proper facilities to operate. Yeah, so I think in the past, Mayor, we've just used it as a place to come in and sit down and write reports. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure the mayor's thinking about the visibility, right? You have that patrol car sitting outside at the mayor's office. Maybe, hopefully people can act right. You never know nowadays. Do you have an update, if I could ask, while we're on the subject of Kobans on the Tuman Koban? Because I saw recently in the media that there was something going on with that. Is that officially reopened?
Not yet. We're building capacity there.
Okay. Yeah. Can I ask about the status of the funding that the governor had provided to the Guam Police Department relative to the beach patrol? And this was done, I believe, after the murder of the tourist down in Tuman. Do you have a status on that?
Yeah, so we've reestablished the beach patrol unit, and we are still getting the personnel trained. We have acquired some new equipment, and we're still working on reopening that subgroup of the Tuman precinct.
Chief, so this morning, Mayor Lizama and I were at the promotion for DL Paris 5th grade to middle school. And we were talking about this, and so you had mentioned that there's an evidence building that's going to be built kind of down the street from where this bill proposes to build the new JIGO police precinct.
Yes, sir.
Right.
So it's to the right of the JIGO power substation. It's on the sits on a 12-acre property that used to be IBC, International Bridge Corporation, and it's right there at the corner of Route 1, and there's a side street there where there's some it's a residential area in the back.
I think just, you know, for the logistics, it kind of sounds like it would make a little more sense to have the precinct adjacent to or in the general area of the evidence building. So I guess my question is, after the evidence building is constructed, is there any property left? Or how big's the piece?
Yeah, so the rest of the property still belongs to the Chamorro Land Trust Commission. Should still be somewhere around 9 to 10 acres because it was at 3. Because I only have 3 acres out of 12 is my understanding.
Right. Okay.
So the thing with that is, might be a good thing, but again, that property that we're building, the evidence control section, the access is not from Route 1. It's off of that side street. And then we're going to carve a road to the back corner. It's probably not a good place to put a police precinct. You want a police precinct near the road, visible, so that people can find it easily.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's why we would like, 7054-1. It's right next to Gain. Route 1 is going to be visible from the roadway. Right?
Okay. What's the funding source for that evidence building?
I believe that's in a Department of Interior grant funding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, again, like I said, Chief, totally support increased police presence, not just in JIGO, but, you know, even in Molesto, por favor. But I also would like to hear from the Chamorro Land Trust, as Senator Terlahi said, just to see, I mean, you know, we had a organization in here about a bill where we're trying to give them Chamorro Land Trust land, and some of the commissioners just spoke with the organization, and lo and behold, there was a piece that maybe made more sense for what they're trying to do. So I'd just like to get the input. And then you, in your testimony, Chief, you had talked about the increasing population, right, and the need for the JIGO police precinct. But I would just offer that I think the residents who have called Guam home are leaving, right, for better opportunities, and the population that is increasing, it's the military population. So I'm hoping that when it comes to the funding, because, you know, my Republican colleagues, they said they're going to snip the agencies. I'm hoping that, you know, we can avail of some type of federal funding, Department of Defense. As you know, way back in the programmatic agreement, this is something that they said that was going to happen with the increased buildup. So I'm hoping that that's going to be a possibility. But again, thank you, Chief, for your testimony. Sidious Masi, Mayor, for yours as well.
Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Barnett. Senator Terlahi just has one more question for you. I'll allow her this leeway.
Yes, so when I had discussed this with CLTC before, it seemed like they were under the impression that they had discussions with GPD in prior years, and that GPD, because they were not able to utilize that designation that they had, that CLTC and GPD were willing to switch with each other the 3.5 acres. It was the same amount for both. And so that you would get the frontage at the Marine Drive, and they still needed that property behind Gain, I think it is. And but you're saying today that the property, that switch is no longer, I guess, can we just get something formal that shows the status of the evidence building or the construction, and how much of the land it's going to take? It's going to take up the whole parcel that was dedicated?
I know it's 10,000 square feet in total, with about maybe 70 stalls dedicated for police impounded vehicles.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think we've occupied pretty much, and then the rest will be parking, our general parking lot.
All right, if we could get something that just describes the status, so that it tells us like when that will be completed and how like for sure that really is, and that if you've been awarded from Department of Interior, you said, so that we're very clear that that switch with the Chamorro Land Trust is off the table, right? And that this would just be additional acreage out of their inventory, right?
Yeah, so yeah, because I think what it is that we have 2 different purpose buildings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Susan Masi, Chief. Thank you,
Thank
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Talai. Senator Gumataotao, you're recognized for your questions and also for your closing.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, thank you to the mayor and thank you to the chief and all of the command staff that's here in support of Bill 51-38. I just wanted to just have one additional comment, or actually it's more of a thank you to the mayor of JIGO, but importantly to the JIGO Municipal Planning Council and their resolution number 2025-03. I want to publicly thank, obviously, your vice chairperson and the vice mayor, Pedro Blas, but the members, and I want to read it for the record, Lawrence Alcairo, Robert J. L. Barcinas, Gregorio P. Calvo, Joseph B. Cruz, Elizabeth Flickinger, Peter B. Frias, Jackie Hattick III, Jonathan McDermott, Norma L. Salas, Peter J. Santos, Geraldine Tennyson, and Benito S. Torres. Again, thank you to your community for supporting this important effort for the village of JIGO. I'm a resident of Talafofo, and I've said it many times, but I'm here to support not just your village, but all of the people of Guam. I don't have any other questions, Mr. Chair, but if I could close with this. An effective law enforcement agency evolves to meet the needs and demands of the community that it in fact serves. Why is Bill 51-38 so important? Well, this is the first step toward a new police station in JIGO. We need to look at building a law enforcement facility in a village that meets or exceeds current policing and safety standards in that village. Expect that a new police precinct will facilitate exceptional police work, not just in northern Guam, but all of Guam. It more than accounts for future policing and community needs through forward-thinking policy, common sense policy. I look forward to the markup process with you, Mr. Chair, and the committee, and I know it will take into account all of the testimony and the input from our colleagues that was brought forward today. And again, Mr. Chair, I look forward to working with you and the committee and this measure, Bill 51-38, and pushing it forward, not only for the sake of the people of JIGO, but for all of the people of Guam. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Gumataotao. Chief, Madam Mayor, thank you both for your testimony. You know, I do see the importance of having it right next to the road in Sinohanya. The precinct is just right there, and, you know, the easy access in and out. But, you know, it also makes it visible to the public who are looking for, you know, the assistance of the police department. And with that fresh coat of paint there now, it looks even better. But I know I think the important question here is the timing of everything, because of the fact that, you know, I heard that coming down from the pipeline is that the community development block grants are going to be something that if we don't act immediately, that we don't know when that is going to be cut, because I know that was part of the president's plan to no longer continue community development block grant, because he wants the local communities now to take charge of doing their own buildings. So I think we move forward with this legislation and, you know, get the input and the testimonies from the departments and things like that. So I look forward to working with the author of the bill and my colleagues here to ensure that these things can continue to move forward for the better, you know, for the betterment of JIGO, but the island in general, so that we can always ensure that the public is always safe. Do you have any other questions or comments? No? Okay, so now then this will conclude the hearing for Bill number 51. We'll now proceed to hearing on testimony for Bill number 73-38 COR, again sponsored by Senator Gumataotao, an act to authorize the transfer of title of ownership and administrative jurisdiction of Lot 15, Block F, Tract 9 in Barrigada Heights from the CHAMORRO Land Trust Commission to the Guam Police Department for the development of a public safety emergency communications center. And all those that will be testifying for this bill to please step forward. Okay. So, Chief, I'm going to give the author his opening statement, and then from there you can decide if you would like to go first, or let the ladies to your left go first.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair, for this public hearing. on Bill 73-38 COR, and for the opportunity to introduce the measure which transfers unassigned Chamorro Land Trust Commission property in Barrigada Heights to the Guam Police Department for the development of a Guam Police Safety Communications Center. This effort, Mr. Chair, is in collaboration with the Guam Fire Department. I am not leaving them out. Mr. Chair, according to the Guam Police Department, the agency's dispatch center is currently located at the Guam Homeland Security Office of Civil Defense building in Agana Heights. Now, prior to its current location, the Guam Police Department, their dispatch center was operated in different locations, including the former Pedro's Plaza in Hagåtña and within the former Naval Air Station Hagåtña facilities that is currently at Titano, Barrigada. Although the Guam Fire Department invited GPD to co-locate its dispatch center with the Next Generation or Next Gen 911 Center, which is currently situated in a privately owned property under a 3-year rental agreement, Guam Police believes that it is prudent to delay movement to the Next Gen 911 facility until upgrades to the agency's obsolete land mobile radio communications system were completed. Additionally, GPD remains steadfast in its position that a centralized Guam Public Safety Communications Center should be developed on government-owned property. Mr. Chair, Bill 73 is a logical, common sense, and important step to realize a collective vision for both of these critical public safety agencies that will more than strengthen and modernize Guam's emergency communications capabilities. In addition to housing both the GPD Dispatch Center and GFD's Next Gen 911 operations, it is anticipated that a new public safety or a Guam Public Safety Communications Center would serve as an alternate facility for emergency response coordination among Guam's local, federal, and military partners. Mr. Chair, if approved, Bill 73 provides a strong foundation from which GPD, GFD, and relevant local, federal, and military public safety and law enforcement agencies may collaborate toward the development, financing, and operations of a Guam Public Safety Communications Center. With respect to BBMR's comments in the bill's fiscal note concerning financial requirements for such a facility moving forward, in his letters to the CLTC dated October 20, 2023 and December 21, 2023, requesting the Commission to consider leasing or transferring the subject lot in Barrigada Heights to GPD for the purpose of building a public safety emergency communications center, Police Chief Stephen Ignacio wrote that GIDA, the Guam Economic Development Authority, agreed to assist GPD in identifying a funding source for construction. Chief Ignacio also indicated that GPD would seek the assistance and expertise of DPW, the Guam Department of Public Works, relative to design requirements for the communications facility and to join this effort as a member of the construction management team once it has been assembled. I wish to thank Police Chief Stephen Ignacio, Fire Chief Darren Burrier, who's here with us today, and our friend Barrigada Mayor June Bloss for their collective time and effort in moving this matter through the legislative process, including a visit to the Barrigada Heights property, which we coordinated this past February. This bill, Mr. Chair, is about a future of interoperability. This is the ability of Guam's emergency responders to together communicate among jurisdictions, disciplines, and levels of government, which is crucial to all first responders in our island. With that, Mr. Chair, I look forward to the testimony today and to continue working with relevant stakeholders on any amendments that may be needed to strengthen Bill 73-38 COR. So just Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Gumataotao. Chief, so you want me to go ahead and...
Yes, sir. I'll defer to Civil Defense and Marine Center and the HSA first.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Hafade Honorable Chair Ada, Senator Gumataotao, Senator Chalahi, and members of the Committee on Land, Environment, Housing, Agriculture, Parks, and Infrastructure. My name is Esther J.C. Agagi, and I serve as the Homeland Security Advisor to the Governor of Guam and currently the Acting Administrator of the Office of Civil Defense. and I appreciate the opportunity to provide testimony in strong support of Bill number 73-38, introduced by Senator Shawn Gumataotao. This bill proposes to authorize the transfer of ownership and administrative jurisdiction of Lot 15, Block F, Tract 3 in Barrigada Heights from the CHAMORRO Land Trust Commission to the Guam Police Department for the development of a public safety emergency communications center. As the territory's primary agency responsible for coordinating emergency management and homeland security efforts, our office strongly supports this legislation. From my daily oversight of emergency operations, I can attest that our current emergency communications infrastructure faces significant technological and operational challenges. The existing system operates on aging land mobile radio technology that requires the immediate modernization to meet the 21st century emergency response demands. A modern public safety emergency communications center requires specialized infrastructure, including advanced radio communications equipment with full island coverage capability, redundant power systems and backup generators for continuous operation during disasters, hardened facilities capable of withstanding typhoons and other natural disasters, multi-agency dispatch capabilities with integrated computer-aided dispatch systems, emergency alert and warning systems compatible with federal emergency notification protocols, and secure communications networks for law enforcement and homeland security operations. The proposed Barrigada Heights location offers optimal radio frequency propagation characteristics for island-wide coverage, essential for effective emergency communications during critical incidents. During the recent emergency responses during Typhoon Mawar in May of 2023 and various public safety incidents, our current fragmented communication systems has presented operational challenges. For example, our emergency responders faced communication gaps during the storm's aftermath when primary communication towers were damaged. A centralized hardened communication facility would have provided better continuity of operations and faster coordination of recovery efforts. During complex emergencies requiring coordination between the Guam Police Department, Guam Fire Department, the Office of Civil Defense, the Port Authority of Guam, the Guam International Airport, the Guam Customs and Quarantine, the Guam National Guard, federal agencies and military partners, we have experienced delays due to incompatible radio systems and the lack of a unified command center. These delays directly impact response times and can affect public safety outcomes. Island-wide search and rescue missions have been hampered by communication dead zones, particularly in remote areas of the island. Enhanced radio infrastructure from a properly positioned communications center with significantly improved coverage and coordination capabilities. As the acting administrator of civil defense, I can speak directly to how this facility will transform our emergency management capabilities. The new center will house upgraded emergency alert and warning systems, enabling faster and more comprehensive notifications to the public during tsunamis, typhoons, or other threats. Current warning capabilities are limited by outdated equipment and infrastructure. During activations of the Emergency Operations Center, seamless communications with field responders is critical. This proposed facility will provide dedicated circuits and backup communications that are essential during extended emergency operations. Guam faces diverse threats, including typhoons, tsunamis, earthquakes, and security concerns. A modern communications center will enable rapid transitions between different types of emergency responses and ensure continuity of operations regardless of the threat. The facility will significantly enhance our coordination with Guam's 19 village mayors during emergency operations. Village mayors serve as a critical local emergency coordinators, and improved communications will enable real-time coordination of village-level response efforts, evaluation procedures, and resource distribution. The center will provide direct communication links to village command posts and improve our ability to gather field intelligence from local officials who know their communities. The facility will enhance our ability to coordinate with federal agencies, including FEMA, the U.S. Coast Guard, and the Department of Defense partners, to include Department of Homeland Security, during joint operations and federal disaster declarations. The proposed communications center addresses critical interoperability gaps that currently limit our emergency response effectiveness. The facility will enable true unified command during major incidents, allowing multiple agencies to coordinate from a single location with shared communications resources. The Communications Center will strengthen our partnership with the 19 village mayors who serve as local emergency coordinators in their respective communities. Enhanced communications will enable better communication and coordination of village-level emergency response, more effective evacuation procedures, and improved distribution of emergency supplies and information to residents. Real-time tracking and deployment of emergency resources across the island will be significantly improved through integrated dispatch systems. Secure information sharing between law enforcement, fire services, emergency management, and Homeland Security will be enhanced through dedicated networks and protocols. The facility will serve as a hub for regular multi-agency training exercises, improve our collective preparedness for various emergency scenarios. The Barrigada Heights location provides several strategic benefits. The elevation and central location optimize radio coverage across the entire island, including previously challenged areas in the northern and southern regions. The site provides access to reliable power, telecommunications, and transportation networks essential for 24/7 operations. The location for appropriate physical security measures while maintaining accessibility for emergency responders and supporting agencies. The approximately 10,000 square meter lot provides sufficient space for initial construction and future expansion as technology and operational needs evolve. This legislation represents more than a land transfer. It establishes the foundation for a generational investment in public safety infrastructure, and the benefits include government ownership that eliminates ongoing lease costs and provides long-term stability for this critical infrastructure investment. A purpose-built facility will accommodate emerging technologies, including the next generation 911 systems, advanced mapping capabilities, and integration with federal emergency management systems. It will also provide enhanced communications directly to translate to improve community resilience and faster recovery from disasters and emergencies. In addition, enhanced emergency communications will improve coordination with our 19 village mayors, enabling a more effective grassroots emergency response and ensuring that local communities, their needs are rapidly communicated to emergency management officials. The facility will also support regional emergency management cooperation with other Pacific territories and neighboring nations. And this initiative directly supports multiple strategic planning documents. For example, Guam's 5-year consolidated plan for 25 to 29. This federally required HUD planning document, currently under development by the Guam Housing Urban Renewal Authority, establishes priorities for federal housing and community development funding. The consolidated plan identifies infrastructure needs and public safety improvements as key priorities for federal investment. A modern emergency communications center directly supports these community development goals by enhancing public safety infrastructure that protects residents and strengthens community resilience. Another example is the Guam Hazard Mitigation Plan. Recently adopted by Governor Lulian Guerrero in July of 2024 and approved by FEMA, this comprehensive plan identifies Guam's vulnerabilities to natural, technological, and human-made disasters. This plan emphasizes the critical need for robust emergency communications systems to coordinate multi-agency response efforts during typhoons, tsunamis, earthquakes, and other hazards. The proposed communications center directly addresses mitigation strategies outlined in the plan for emergency response capabilities and reducing disaster impacts on our community. In addition, the Department of Homeland Security's strategic priorities also is included in some of the benefits. In its 2023 to 27 strategic plan, emphasizing enhancing critical infrastructure security and resilience, particularly in the Pacific region where Guam serves as its strategic hub. Current priorities include strengthening emergency communications interoperability, building resilient infrastructure, and supporting territories' homeland security capabilities. The proposed communications center aligns with DHS objectives for improving Pacific region emergency preparedness and enhancing coordination between federal, territorial, and local agencies. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, better known as CISA, SAFECOM programs establish the national standards for emergency communications interoperability. These requirements, outlined in the National Emergency Communications Plan and SAFECOM guidance, documents mandate that federal funding recipients implement systems that enable seamless communication across jurisdictions and disciplines. The proposed center will ensure Guam's compliance with Project 25 or P25 standards in its operability and requirements and federally interoperability mandates that are essential for receiving ongoing federal communications grants. Ladies and gentlemen, Bill number 73-38 addresses a critical infrastructure gap that has persisted for too long. And from my perspective, overseeing both Homeland Security and emergency management operations, I cannot overstate the importance of this legislation for the safety and the security of our island community. The current emergency communications challenges we face are not merely inconveniences. They represent genuine risks to public safety, and this proposed facility will directly address. Every day we delay this important infrastructure development is another day our first responders and emergency managers operate at a disadvantage. The proposed land transfer is the essential first step towards establishing a modern, resilient emergency communications capability that will serve Guam well into the future. The investment in our emergency infrastructure will pay dividends in lives saved, property protected, and community resistance enhanced. I learned an important lesson many years ago during my early career in emergency management, where you stand depends on where you sit. And when I worked in the field operations, I focused on immediate response needs and equipment functionality. When I moved into the planning roles, I began to see the bigger picture of coordinated response and resource allocation. And now, sitting in the dual role of the Homeland Security Advisor and the acting Civil Defense Administrator, I have a unique perspective from this vantage point. I can clearly see how the fragmented nature of our current emergency communications system creates unnecessary risks and efficiencies that could be resolved through the establishment of this centralized facility. This perspective allows me not only to advocate for what we need today, but for what our island community will need to remain safe and resilient for decades to come. So on behalf of the Guam Office of Homeland Security and the Office of Civil Defense, I strongly urge this committee to support Bill number 73-38 and advance this critical public safety initiative. Sisu Usmaasi for the opportunity to provide this testimony and for your continued support of emergency management and Homeland Security priorities.
Thank you, HSA Agigi. Will Ms. Paris be also providing testimony?
Did you want Chief to go first?
You can go.
Hafaday and good afternoon. Honorable Chair Ada, Senator Gumataotao, Senator Terlahi, and Senator Titano. My name is Lucia Perez. In my role as the lead Emergency Support Function 2 Communications within the Offices of Homeland Security and Civil Defense, I respectfully submit this testimony in strong support of Bill number 73-38 COR, legislation that initiates a vital first step in advancing Guam's emergency response capabilities by transferring the title of ownership and administrative jurisdiction of Lot 15, Block F, Tract 9 in Barrigada Heights from the CHAMORRO Land Trust Commission to the Guam Police Department as introduced by Senator Gumataotao. This legislation is more than a land transfer. It is a strategic investment in the security and resilience of the people of Guam. By granting GPD jurisdiction and ownership of this parcel, we lay the foundation for creating a forward-looking Guam Public Safety Communications Center. This community-centered, resilient facility will unite police dispatch, fire, and EMS coordination and enhance 911 services, also known as NG 911, under one roof. This center will not only transform how we respond to emergencies, it will also stand as a symbol of our island's commitment to protecting every life, every neighborhood, and every generation to come. A vision for Guam's resilient future. Imagine a single fortified structure in Barrigada Heights, designed to operate autonomously in the face of typhoons, earthquakes, cyber attacks, or prolonged power outages. The Guam Public Safety Communications Center will be that facility, a beacon of public safety operations with self-sustaining utilities, its own independent and water systems, enabling up to 14 days of continuous off-grid operation, even in catastrophic conditions, a hardened design built to withstand Category 5 storms and seismic events, ensuring Guam's emergency response never loses its voice, a unified dispatch operations, bringing GPD, GFD services into a single integrated dispatch center will foster seamless communication and ensure faster, more efficient coordination across all emergency response agencies, delivering the right help to the right place at the right time. Cybersecure and interoperable systems, seamless data and voice communication with local, federal, and military partners, especially during high-threat scenarios. It also allows space for growth with the scalable design to adapt to emerging technologies, regional mutual aid, and evolving homeland security missions. This facility will serve as the operational nerve center during a crisis and symbolize our commitment to public trust, safety, and readiness. The proposed site in Barrigada Heights is ideal due to its elevation and existing infrastructure. Learning from the past and preparing for the future, the need for this center is not hypothetical. During Typhoon Mara in 2023, our dispatch centers operated under extreme conditions, some with limited redundancy, inadequate backup systems, and strained interagency coordination. Likewise, the evolving threat landscape, including cyber attacks like Vote Typhoon, highlights the vulnerability of outdated, disconnected infrastructure. Bill number 73-38 addresses these issues at their root by enabling the construction of a mission-critical facility that protects lives, data, and vital services. So from vision to reality, it begins with this bill. Passing Bill number 73-38 is not a request for construction dollars or budget appropriations. It is a decisive foundational act that unlocks the future of public safety on our island. This measure transfers a parcel of land to the Guam Police Department. It opens the door to transformational change, enabling strategic planning, interagency coordination, federal funding alignment, and ultimately, the construction of a facility that will serve as the communications lifeline for our people. Your vote will set in motion the creation of a center that embodies resilience and unity, where emergency calls are received and lives are saved. Dispatchers will have the tools to act quickly and accurately, and first responders are backed by communications infrastructure they can rely on, even in Guam's most difficult hours. Imagine a single secure location built to withstand storms, power outages, and cyber threats, where police, fire, EMS, and 911 services work side by side, sharing real-time information and deploying resources in perfect coordination. Imagine knowing that no matter where the emergency occurs, from Dedado to Maleso, on land or sea, Guam's response will be swift, seamless, and strong. By supporting this bill, you are not just authorizing a land transfer, but making a legacy decision. You place public safety above politics and as a priority, preparation above reaction, and resilience above risk. You affirm to every family on this island that their lives matter, their safety is a priority, and their government is ready. The Guam Public Safety Communications Center is more than a building. It is a promise to protect, to respond, and to endure. That promise begins today with your leadership and support for Bill number 73-38. Sizuas Ma'asi for your vision, courage, and unwavering commitment to Guam's people.
Thank you, Ms. Paris, for your testimony. Chief Barrier, we'll go ahead and go with you next, sir.
Buenas, Hafide. Chair Ada, Senator Gumataotao, Senator Tlahi, Senator Titano. My name is Darren Burrier, Fire Chief of the Guam Fire Department. I'm here today to express my support for Bill number 7338, which proposes the transfer of land from the Police Department for the establishment of the Public Safety Emergency Communications Center. This initiative is a critical step toward enhancing the coordination, infrastructure, and operational effectiveness of Guam's public safety emergency response services. Listening to today's testimony, it's very plain to see that this is not just a land bill, but it's a security bill, a bill that's going to secure the people of Guam's future in making sure that there is effective communication amongst all the different public safety agencies to be able to bring the services that they need to make sure that they're secure in their homes. With the fire department, the police department, Homeland Security, Civil Defense, the key is communication. And this center gives us a home to do that. All the years that I've been giving public service to the people of Guam, 911, dispatching of calls has never had a secure home. And it's the fragility of communication that you see here. When you can communicate with people, as you do here, hearing people and speaking on behalf of bills, it helps the legislature develop laws that are needed to benefit the people. The communications that we receive in a communication center when people are in need is vital. Not having a home to do that in, like we have the legislative hall, makes our job more difficult to do. 911 for the fire department started off in Tumuni Fire Station in a little room where we took calls in and dispatched units out from a small room that housed 2 people. From there, we end up with a 911 center in Tijan. We thought that was the home, and it moved then to Homeland Security. That was temporary. Being at Homeland Security, we did realize the importance of bringing everybody into the same house. GPD was there, we were there, Homeland Security, Civil Defense, we were able to have the EOC there. Communication was then effectuated across the board. Once we start to separate, and we've moved to 911 Next Gen into a private center where it's only secured by the lease that we pay. We are separated now from our brethren, the police department, where we are not able to have that open communication with them through a room where we can see each other. Same as with the EOC, with Civil Defense and Homeland Security. By establishing a communications center in Barrigada Heights, central to Guam, it gives us that home that we can be able to house each other, we can communicate with each other, we can plan and establish on what is going to be the best response. Because just because you call for a police officer to arrive at your home does not mean that you're going to not need other resources like a fire truck or a medic or a paramedic. We all have to be able to communicate. The closer we are together and able to communicate with each other in a building such as this, we're able to respond faster, more efficiently, and more safely. So moving forward, the only amendment I would say I would do, because under statute, the Guam Fire Department is lead agency in the establishment, operate, and maintain control of the Enhanced 911 Center. And it's vital that we have, from the very beginning, from the very foundation, that we have a part with the police department in developing the ideal communication center. And so I would say that, and with that statutory authority to include the Guam Fire Department with the Guam Police Department in ownership of this property and allowing us to be able to effectuate a very efficient planning of the proper type of building that would be able to benefit everyone. So we respectfully request that to be put into language for the joint ownership in Bill 7338. And I'm sorry, but my testimony I kind of ad-libbed a bit, because echoing the testimonies I heard today, it just brings to mind everything that we've gone through to get to this point. This is truly an important bill. It's not just about land. It's about the future of the safety of Guam. Jesus Masi.
Thank you, Chief Burrier. Chief Ignacio, you?
Good afternoon again, Senator Ada, Senator Gumataotao, and Senator Chalai. I wanted to go last because I'm asking for land again. So I wanted to make sure I didn't go first. When is it off a day? The Guam Police Department submits this testimony to support Bill 73-38 to transfer the ownership and administrative jurisdiction of Lot 15, Block F, Tract 9 in Barrigada Heights from the CHAMORRO Land Trust Commission to the Guam Police Department for the development of a public safety emergency communication center. There is a critical need to construct this purpose-built facility in a location that is centralized and in an isolated area, which is a strategic combination to ensure security, resilience, and effectiveness in emergency response operations. Imagine a centralized and modernized public safety answering center for receiving, managing, and dispatching emergency calls, as well as providing office space, a central command post for emergency situations, where first responders from police, fire, and EMS can be quickly and accurately deployed to incidents and situations. A central secure location for communication equipment and assets that can be accessed for immediate deployment. A single place where first responders communicate during special operations and emergency situations for the safety and security of our island residents and visitors. A place that is owned by the government of Guam. The Emergency Communications Center is a 24/7, 365 days a year operation that requires a positive working environment, updated equipment, and trained personnel. With two agencies overseeing the dispatching of fire, EMS, and law enforcement, it is imperative that the Guam Fire Department 911 dispatchers and the GPD Tactical Communications Center dispatchers are co-located to create a functional and operationally effective hub. By doing so, minutes are spared in transferring calls, where a minute can be the factor between life and death situations. Past facilities where 911 and police dispatch were either located together or separate were small or leased facilities. For the GPD TCC, it has moved several times over the past 20 years, being located at the former Hagatnya precinct, the GPD headquarters at Pedro's Plaza, to the building that is now known as SIFA, and to its current location at the Guam Homeland Security Office of Civil Defense. These facilities where we operated were not designed to function as a communication center, which at times resulted in cramped conditions and a lack of organization in the workplace. In our most recent location, we have had to relocate several times in the past 2 years to our continuity of operations, or COOP site, due to the lack of reliable backup power, inoperable elevator, plumbing issues, and a problematic HVAC system, to list a few. These conditions made the workplace temperature and comfort level inconsistent, creating a less than ideal working environment for employees. In addition, GPD is currently working on upgrading the land mobile radio communication system, which will advance our radio communications to digital technology, providing better coverage and services for our public safety community. It is crucial that the location of our dispatch center has robust and reliable infrastructure in order to support the new system and the equipment that supports it. This bill authorizes the transfer of ownership and administrative jurisdiction of the land located in Barrigada Heights. We identified this piece of property due to the fact that there is existing infrastructure in the vicinity, such as power, water, and fiber. The location of the property is also away from specific hazards, specifically flood zones. Once the land transfer is approved, the next steps will be for the public safety to work collaboratively with all parties involved to identify funds to build this very important facility. At this stage, we are unable to provide an exact cost for building the Emergency Communication Center. However, we do know that for a comparable project, a 6,500 square foot precinct is costing approximately $6.5 million. While the project is considered brick and mortar, aimed to build an emergency communication center, it is more so about constructing a structure that will assist public safety in protecting lives, enhancing emergency response capabilities, and investing in a safer future for our island residents and visitors. As we move forward to accomplish the transfer of land and to build a state-of-the-art emergency communication center, GPD will work in partnership with the Guam Fire Department and other public safety entities and our government leaders so that all the necessary components are included in this project. The endeavor envisions a successful and efficient emergency communication center, ECC, with these components: dispatch calling center for fire, EMS, and law enforcement, a command post or a situation room, office space, employee facilities such as bunk rooms, locker rooms, and restroom facilities, and kitchen facilities, storage space for communication equipment, enclosed and secure parking for communications vehicles, secured access to the building, and the future backup site of the land mobile radio system. In closing, the acquisition of this land marks a crucial first step toward achieving our goal of building the Emergency Communication Center. This initial milestone sets the foundation for the development process, moving us closer to setting a new standard for public safety, one that ensures our emergency services are equipped, empowered, and ready to serve with excellence. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Chief Ignacio, for your testimony this afternoon. I'm going to go ahead and open up the panel for comments or questions from my colleagues. Again, they have 5 minutes to ask their comments or questions. I'll go ahead and start with Senator Terlahi. Ma'am, you're recognized.
Mr. Chair, and thank you all for your testimony. Again, this is sounds like a very important project. I don't think anybody objects to anything that you're trying to do. Those are actually, I have some mixed feelings about all the testimony because I feel like isn't that the promise we're already making to people? Isn't that what we're supposed to be doing already? And laying out that this is the only way that it's going to get done, and like there's nothing that's going to be done in the interim it's disturbing. But I'm going to give benefit of the doubt and good faith. I mean, I know, Chief of Police, you're here because you're bringing in a new system and you want a place to put it. That's very practical. I understand it, and I think you should get that. And Fire wants to combine. They think that's a good idea. No objections to that. It's not clear. It seems like Homeland Security, Office of Civil Defense is kind of hinting that there's some bigger plan here, but we don't have that in front of us. And that's not being laid out, that there's a bigger plan for all kinds of other things. And those are the promises, I guess. I'm saying this building is, or this transfer of land is the first step in a promise to the people that we care for them. I don't understand that kind of talk at all, because we should be doing everything in our capability right now to take care of those, not even promises, but that's our duty. So I'm going to just approach this very practical. You don't have to convince me of the need or how ideal it might be to put everybody in the same facility or to communicate together when we're in an emergency. All of that is great, and I actually think it's very much expected, and anything less is not. But I do understand the practicality of you haven't been able to do that for certain reasons, and that's kind of what I want to just get to the bottom of. So first of all, again, everybody says this is not a land issue. Well, yes, it is. This bill is not the bill that says all of these agencies should be put together and should cooperate and should work together and should meet all the promises that have been made to the people of Guam. The bill says nothing about that. It says we're going to take the land out of the Chamorro Land Trust and give it to the police to do whatever he decides to do with it. And in the intent, it says this will help them to collaborate with others. But I'm saying if you have a plan and you have promises of federal funding or GIDA funding or some bond that's going to be passed, I would like to see that. I would like to know what is the plan. And if there's any reason why, if it's ideal to be working together, you're not working in the same building. I mean, I think it was, well, both of you kind of pointed out what I'm thinking is the problems with the Office of Civil Defense structure up there in Agana Heights. That's where the infrastructure is lacking. Has there been any investigation into rebuilding that in that location, or improving it, or anything like that? I mean, if there has, I would just expect that you would lay that all out. Why that's not practical, why, I mean, everybody wants to be on land that's next to power and water and cable or internet, even residential leases, right? So I'm just saying that's also all available in Agana Heights. Is the property too small? Is it not, we can't rebuild it? And you know, obviously, civil defense, I guess, is really my issue. I don't have any problem with GPD, GFD, getting land, getting a building. I do have a problem doing that out of the Chamorro Land Trust inventory without them even having the opportunity to be here, without you discussing with them. They have total power to license out property for civil purposes that they need because they are building residences. So GPD, a precinct, a communication center seems to me completely within their jurisdiction to approve or not. A license for 25 years, this bill says a lease, they could do that. But this thing about combining everybody is I think maybe that's the bill that we should be doing, is mandating that for some reason that it's not working, that it must work. If the bill talks about Lot 15 and attaches a severance map for Lot 16, but Lot 15 is also 10,000 square meters. Is that correct? It says.
Sure.
So 15 and 16 are adjacent.
So
16
I
was
think as a
partition.
better reference, it's if you can visualize the Regalu foster home,
Yes.
that empty lot, and then the water tank,
Yes.
the brand new water tank up in Barrigada Heights. It's that piece of property in between the two.
All right. So
Yeah,
that
but-
water tank was suffered.
But there's some other property next to the water tank that's also, that's not the property. It's the one right next to Regalo.
That's right, because the water tank was cut out of the Chamorro Land Trust 10,000 square feet lot 16, which is on the map. So they cut out like 3,000 for the water tank.
Right.
So the rest, I think, continues to remain. That's why I'm asking you, but you want lot 15, which is also 10,000 square meters. I can't read that part of this map. And if it's 10, well, the bill says it's 10,000 square meters. Is that, but one of the testimonies today says that you, not your testimony, someone else's testimony said, oh, this would allow for expansion of all these other facilities, training centers. What are your actual requirements, Chief, for building the communication center to house your new technology?
This is how this came about. When NG 911 was being built out, there was no way any of that new equipment that they needed for the new NG 911 system was going to fit. So they were forced to move out because it's either GPD moves out and they're going to stay and they're going to put in all the new equipment. I didn't have a place to go to.
Size limit.
Right? So they needed to move NG 911 because they had a contract signed with a vendor. So they decided to go out and put it out for bid, and they moved into a lease space. Right? So I'm not sure if you've had an opportunity to visit the 911 center yet, but it's a really nice place. It really functions as a real, true emergency communication center, but again, in a lease space. When I finally signed the contract to upgrade the new land mobile radio system, which is going to cost $11.5 million, we realized that, the civil defense building, although it served us well for many years, was not ideal. We wanted to continue to co-locate fire and police because when there's a need for a fireman, there's probably also a need for a policeman, and vice versa. And so this idea of having us co-located has always worked for the many years that we've been since we were up at CIFA, and then when we moved to civil defense. So the co-location has always worked, and it's worked well for the police and fire and for the people that we serve. When I realized that we couldn't move our old, so I wanted to move all the old equipment to the new NG 911 down at DNA building. But, when I got the cost estimate to move 30-year-old pieces of equipment down to DNA building, it was close to $1 million. $1 million is not something I have laying around, nor do I want to invest $1 million to move old equipment, really, really old equipment, and knowing that we were going to operate or purchase a new land mobile radio system. So I opted to stay there. But as we move forward with the new LMR system, the new land mobile radio system, we wanted to make sure that we go back to the co-location of police and fire dispatchers. So one of the things that concerns me is that I'm moving into a leased building. Right? We don't own the building. In 3 years, and probably two years now, because they're probably a year in already, if not longer, he's going to have to renegotiate a lease, right? And my concern is communications is not just something, there's not just office space for people to work in. You have equipment. It's a critical function of public safety. What if the landlord says, I don't want you guys no more?
Yeah. I understand, Chief. I get the purpose of the bill, that we don't want to be leasing. We want it to be in a permanent structure that we can develop the security and everything to do with that structure. I totally get that.
Yes.
You don't have to convince me of that. So that's
Okay.
not the issue. The issue is, well, you in your testimony, well, the other issues that are brought up, plus you in your testimony, you have outlined what you intend to put in there. So that's great. I'm hoping we will incorporate this into the bill, because the bill right now says we're giving you the land, you get to do whatever you want with it, including a public safety communication system. And that's it. That's all it says. But this is much more clear, and that's why I'm saying civil defense, Homeland Security's testimony is all kinds of other plans, but we haven't seen any of those. I'd like to know exactly what they intend to put into your building if we give you this land, and otherwise we expect that if we give you land anywhere, or if the Chamorro Land Trust leases you land for these purposes, that's the purpose that it's going to be used for, that's the priority. We're not going to go out for a bond for some who knows what, but you know, I want to just say we're all on the same page. We agree these are the priorities. We agree communication's a priority. That's a no-brainer. That's so easy that it should be owned by a government building, even that. And that's why I'm sure that was all intended to be all the things that you described, central, you know, community, in the community, yet isolated up there at the government house. All of that, it's probably outgrown its use, but still, I'm just saying this is, I just think there's a little bit of a gap here between the police and the fire. It seems simple, and it seems, unless you have any objection to his request, that GFD is going to be joint, he said joint owners, but I can see joint planners perhaps. In the end, there might have to be one owner of the building, I'm not sure. But those are all technical things I think you really need to flush out if you're getting any grants to fund any of these things or any other requirements, and make sure that those requirements are put down into whatever we're going to say is the agreement for this property, right?
Yeah, yes,
like the minimum requirements of what each must have or doesn't need to have. The same thing, and to me this is a whole other can of worms. If we're going to combine civil defense, it makes sense. I'm not saying it doesn't make sense, Homeland Security or whatever, they're going to use this as their training center and all of that, communications, emergency response site. I'm just saying, it seems to me, or then you're shaking your head, so if you're not going to use it, then it seems to me that we should ensure that up there in the Agana Heights, what we're expecting is our central location, that is shored up to meet all of these specs, that it has infrastructure and working elevators and working everything that it needs to handle our emergencies. Especially the communication systems. Now that has always been the goal, right? We're not coming up with a new goal that all of a sudden now we want to communicate together. It's always been the goal. It was explained to me, that's why Office of Homeland Security is here. We have the Fusion Center. It's always the goal that they're going to communicate with each other. We have the emergency central, everything up there for typhoons especially and other incidences. So I'm just saying that is our goal, I hope, and that we're not saying, I mean, I hope you know what I'm saying. I'm just saying it just sounds, I just don't want to say we have put off this goal because we now need a new building. We may need a new building, but I think those goals should always still try to proceed.
May I make a point of clarification, Senator? The intent was not for Homeland Security to co-locate with the Guam Police Department and the Guam Fire Department. My job as the Homeland Security Advisor is to provide preparedness and to prevent. So the vision is a plan, and those plans, ma'am, are right there on my testimony. There's a link to all the plans that I had mentioned. If you have a copy of my testimony, and you see that I have references and some footnotes at the very last page. And if you click on, if you go into the website, you see those plans that I had indicated. But
the ones where you say they included as a goal for Guam that we have an integrated communication system, right? Or infrastructure that would last after a typhoon, right?
That's the
Okay.
vision, Senator.
Yes.
That it would be,
Okay, I
you
get
know, as we're planning ahead, you know, we have to be strategic with how we plan. And with the way that our communication systems has been working, or shall I say not working for us, I think for such a time as this, while we're thinking of it, I think this is the right chemistry right now, so that we can start looking at strategic initiatives, so that we plan for not only the next 2 or 3 years, but we plan for generations to come. And that was the whole purpose of my bearing.
So they're not co-locating, will Civil Defense be making
No, ma'am.
its own independent
Correct.
improvements to that location?
We are not co-locating with them, Senator.
No, to the location that you have for communication, because you want to communicate with them as well. You've spent
right. We will
in
have
your
our own
testimony.
interoperability communications.
So you
but
have that already?
We have something in place, but we could surely use an upgrade in our antiquated systems. And we're getting there with the advancement of the new LMRs that the chief has,
Yes.
worked for.
So that's going to fix their link, right, to your system that
Yes.
hopefully we have already in place and you continue to work on.
Yes, ma'am.
right?
We are using the equipment that we currently have in place to communicate.
Thank
Is
you.
there, has there been any study as to whether you could improve that building so that we could co-locate?
Ma'am,
Make it
yes,
larger?
there's actually blueprints for a new civil defense building, because as you know, that building is over 40 years old.
Yes.
And there's, there's some infrastructure situations that need immediate addressing, and we are addressing those, ma'am. The funding just seems to be the issue.
So you're planning to build a new civil defense?
No, Senator. There are blueprints that have been created even before I came on board as the Homeland Security Advisor. But as
Is it to rebuild or just to expand?
To expand, ma'am. To expand.
All right, can I see those, please? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Gumataotao, for your comments and closing remarks.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And just, I wanted to just say a couple of things first off, and for the record. I just want to make sure that the committee wanted to let you know that, again, we did receive testimony from the Guam Economic Development Authority and their full support in if there is a push beyond this bill, then you got a bit of a backstop with GITA to assist in that process. Also, the reference from our HSA regarding the input from the Guam Housing and Urban Renewal Authority, they again provided their testimony that is right behind what our HSA mentioned this afternoon. I do appreciate GURA and their Executive Director, Elizabeth Napoli, for providing her input to this measure. Also, Mr. Chair, I'd like to also recognize, and for the record, the work of our friend June Bloss and Vice Mayor Jesse Bautista and their Municipal Planning Council for their full support of this effort to ensure that, from a communications standpoint, that their village and municipality stands ready to support the fight, especially when we need them most with this planned effort to get the land obviously to GPD. And I want to say for the record, Chief, you're going to work with the fire chief?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and GFD, you're going to work with the GPD? Yes, okay, so that was one of the things that I think for many, many years, and people may not recognize, that there's an effort that's going to need to be, that is going to need to happen between the two. And I think today, and the testimony and the support of those that are here, it's pretty clear that this is really that big first step to getting this center, and kind of it's really going to be the first step to make it work. And I want to just thank you, Mr. Chair, if I could, for holding this hearing again. Because when it comes to communicating emergency information to and among first responders, interoperability is really a problem. And it's not unique to Guam by any stretch of the imagination. In some cases, emergency responders cannot talk to some parts of their own agencies, let alone communicate with agencies maybe in a neighboring village. Our public safety friends maybe nearby in the CNMI, if you will, or our federal partners who are really right down the road, who share in law enforcement actions in and around critical federal assets, both here and across in our friends here in the Northern Marianas. And when time is of the essence, the results if we don't communicate, can be catastrophic. Bill 51-38, I really believe will be strengthened from the testimony that was brought here from all of you in front of us today, our colleagues that are up here, and we will take all of those into consideration, and we will use the markup process to get this bill on track and in front of the other members of the Guam legislature adjacent to us in the session hall. This bill does send a message, Mr. Chair, that a priority facility needs a process that prioritizes the most important of issues facing our people today. To do their jobs effectively, public safety responders depend on sophisticated communication systems to relay mission-critical information in real time. We have an emergency operations center which will have its purpose, but we do need an emergency communications center that can go do their job as well. In 2025 and beyond, we need to build it so that they can do their jobs better than they've done it in the past. And then together, the synergy between the two facilities, I think there's been this misnomer that the EOC is the communications center for all responses. It is not. Mr. Chair, it is not where all of it happens. It happens in the field. Our mayors, our policemen and women, our firefighters that are out there, and I've seen them in responses. They have done their part, and we need to be able to do a better job of finding a place for them to bring those communications facilities in one place. And then when we're working on the EOC, the communication and the effort between the two, when our people need it the most, I can assure you, Mr. Chair, it'll come to bear and our people will benefit from it for the most part. But the first step really is this bill. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the time.
Thank you, Senator Gumataotao. This concludes today's public hearings on Bill number 41-38 COR, 51-38 COR, and 73-38 COR. The committee will continue to accept written statements on today's hearing within 7 days from today, which will be mailed to my office on the second floor of the Guam Congress Building at 163 Chalang Santo Papa in Hagåtña. You may also send your statements to us at Vice Speaker Tony Ada at guamlegislature.gov. Like I said earlier today, we will be giving the agencies additional time to submit their testimonies as required, as requested from them. Thank you all for your participation today. The public hearing is adjourned, and the time now is 5:37 p.m. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. Thank you. Thank you, colleagues.